The calamari Zinfar is a-flowing, because we are here to rejoice the destruction of the Death Star 2, and more importantly, review Star Wars Return of the Jedi from a certain point of view. We did it, guys.
We
won
the
the
war.
Yeah. We won the war. The fireworks are everywhere.
Yeah.
We're partying with Ewoks. Don't ask what you're eating.
Nope.
It's fine.
Is the war reading a 600-page book in 4 days? Because
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a monster
yeah, it's a
book. It's really, I mean, it deserves it, but did all of these, from a certain point of views, have 40 chapters in them?
Yep, because it's the 40th anniversary. So
I mean, that makes sense, but holy shnikes.
Yeah, I'm hoping with the prequel trilogies that they're not going to wait for the 40th anniversary and maybe just give us like the 30th anniversary, so it's 30 chapters.
It's such a cool thing, though, man. Like, it's such a good exhibition of authors around the world that love Star Wars and letting them flex and in the galaxy. And I love how, I mean, it certain point of view works on so many levels, right? Like, you get different perspectives from different characters, but you get different perspectives from different creators. And that's what I like. I love the sort of outliers that try to do really brave things in there. Sometimes it's not a bit much. Actually, it's not. There was nothing in here that I was like, it took me out of the galaxy. I just adore it. It's such a fun read.
Yeah, I'll push back. There's one that took me out, but it was more because of the audiobook version. So I'd be very interested to get your thoughts on how you read it versus how the audiobook version was presented.
I'm excited to hear about the audiobook. And
audiobook is awesome.
Which story?
Because, similar to like Ben, is like they have multiple different people reading these chapters, and so you get a different perspective. I mean, you get like a lot of Mark Thompson. I think Mark Thompson probably reads like a quarter of them. But like Sam Witwer pops up,
nice.
does the Palpatine voice for the whole Palpatine chapter, which is pretty good.
Oh, sweet.
He does Palpatine.
That's a highlight. I mean, there's a couple short stories that are just mesmerizing, like incredible story. But again, I think everyone for this one especially, it was super talented. Like each story just blew me away. Like just the amount of sort of like backstory that's kind of injected into each character from Return of the Jedi, like these background characters. It blew my mind because they did it in the previous installments, but again, I just found more and more territory to expand upon, and that was just
it's true,
just crazy.
Can I jump in with two overarching observations because I want to get your thoughts about this that popped in when I was reading this book. The first is what a wild movie Return of the Jedi is. Is it a 2-act movie? Because so Ben texted earlier, is like, I'm 40% of the way in, I'm already on Endor, and I'm like, that movie has 2 acts. The saving of Han Solo, and then attack on Death Star.
On Endor. I mean, and there's a little smidge of Luke going back to Dagobah.
Yeah, you get that little
mini act in there.
Yeah.
But there's on Endor and then there's the throne room. But it's like a 2.5 hour movie, right? And it's like, it's a chunky movie, but does it only have 2 acts? Unbelievable.
It's really weird. It's a weird structured movie. I mean, I love it. It's one of my favorites, but it's so strange.
Yeah. I feel like we'll inevitably talk about the sequels towards the end of this podcast, given that I feel like this was the deepest meditation on Return of the Jedi that I've been privy to, internally from Lucasfilm, given all these authors just spend so much time thinking about the themes and the motifs of that film in particular, and sort of like how those things could be expanded upon. It gave me so many ideas for maybe maybe the plan that should have been for the sequels after reading this. I was like, this really does feel like the deepest sort of thoughts, about the story we know and love, and sort of the missed opportunities that come with that.
Yeah.
And so I would just love to talk about that at the end, because I feel like there were so many things, like the Empire just being so, how dare rebels challenge Coruscant? Like, Coruscant seems to be central to the Empire. I would have loved to see the Empire try to retake Coruscant at some point or something in the sequels. Like, there were so many things that I felt like this book really kind of like honed in on that I feel like wasn't thought about when it came to the sequels that I'd love to talk about at the end.
Yeah. There was a chapter at the end where I was just like, oh, this just felt like you should have just, or you could have, I don't want to say should have. It almost felt like would have been like a flashback to how episode 7 would have started. If you wanted to, like, I don't know, pull in a character from episode 9 and set his story up a little earlier than, hey, we're introduced to this character like halfway through episode 9, where it just felt like, oh, that would have been a really interesting way to show like the remnant empire's birth, like in a person's mind, of just like, or just like the final order idea kind of in this one person stranded on Endor's mind. It was fascinating. I really thought that was an interesting story. I also feel like the author wasn't allowed to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
They felt a bit of a heavy edited hand on that. The second observation I want to make is I feel like this is the first, from a certain point of view, that's come out since we've gotten more Disney Plus shows outside of the Mandoverse, because it's fascinating. Like, some of these are written post Obi-Wan Kenobi, so we get some of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Kenobi show in there, and then
there's tie-ins to all the Disney Plus shows.
And
Andor,
kind of
Boba Fett,
stuff no, not really Ahsoka, not as much.
Ahsoka's mentioned, but
Ahsoka's mentioned.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about the Boba Fett one, but man, that really was trying to like that
was sad.
That was sad. That was a bit sad. I was trying to tie it in. And John Hamm once again was back to do Boba Fett, and I remember Ben, like way back when we did the first one. We put a little bit at the end of him reading Boba Fett, and he's great reading, but boy, did that Boba Fett feel a lot more from like the book of Boba Fett than it did from like pre-book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But we'll talk.
Oh, really? Because I felt the opposite. I felt like this kind of nailed the merciless bounty hunter with a reputation.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. All right. Yeah, we'll have a conversation.
We'll get into it.
In the future.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, those are two very good observations.
What are your kind of overarching thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Max Rebo.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the Ewok stuff.
Me too.
The storyteller, I really liked. I liked the stories about what's his name? Both the Shaman Logray.
So good. That one
was great, and I really liked the Wicket chapter quite a bit. I thought those were really fun. I just liked seeing their perspectives, and other stories I have been sort of mas o menos about the Endor stuff and the Ewok stuff, but
sure,
that was really cool. Though I think they did forget. I mean, I don't know. All I could think about was that one Ewok like slicer that was in Jyn Erso's book.
Oh, right.
It was like the storyteller would love that Ewok, but okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Peekpaw or something.
Peekpaw.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, nice memory.
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I've got that in there for some reason.
Yeah, I was like, so that really was an outlier Ewok. There's no like people like fussing with technology down there. Yeah, a lot of jats wailing. That was great.
Yeah, I think you mean jizz wailing.
Yeah,
that's what I said. Jats wailing.
No, I think you mean jizz wailing.
Shift in the canon.
Not gonna do it. No.
Adam refuses. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that one, but I don't know if you guys want to go in order here, but I thought each one kind of deserved a little discussion,
okay,
if anything. The first one, any work worth doing? The Jerjerrod
chapter,
loved it. Like I was blown away. I love that the sort of work that's set up there for his backstory being like so obsessive about like physical models and plans and schematics and how to do things, with efficiency is sort of played upon later when you get the chapter with Sim Allo, the sort of like
Yes. Oh, yeah.
acolytes of the beyond, or whoever following Palpatine around. He sort of comments on Jerjerrod being like, because of his lack of efficiency when getting the station, up and running, like he's already lost his opportunities to rise in the ranks. And so I just love that they sort of play upon each other. It's as if the authors were on like the same Slack channel, just chatting about sort of what they're doing.
There was more synergy in this one than I felt like the previous two installments. Like almost like they talk to each other, and I guess they'd have to, because it's like they had like 3 Max Rebo stories. They had like 5 stories about Jabba's palace, but they all kind of held hands. And in a really great way, and all the Imperial ones too. Like no one stepped on each other's feet, and sometimes, like I said, they outright like worked together, which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, like Max Rebo, I think, is covered in a couple stories, but the authors kind of describe him
similarly,
pretty much similarly, in a very similar way.
Yeah.
Like so.
That's one of the like behind the scenes I'd love to learn about.
Also fascinating. I mean, when we talk about that stuff of the pot shots taken at the special editions throughout,
and some
I grew up on
retconning
those guys.
or
I
some
can't
reconditioning.
I'm like Ben when it comes to the special editions.
What am I like with special editions? I take what I'm getting.
No, I'm a lover when it comes to all things special editions.
No. This is unacceptable. I will take Han not shooting first. I will take Jabba's. I will take the addition of Jabba in episode 4. I actually like both of those things. I'm fine with both those things. Jabba's Palace song, Jedi Rock, whatever.
Jedi
what's it called?
The new. Oh yeah. Oh, when it comes to Return of the Jedi and sort of the things they did.
Yes, that to me is like no. That is the worst. That is almost unforgivable. That addition.
But Spice Noodles chapter, quite good.
But notice it's all the original characters that get chapters, and they're taking pot shots at the added characters in all of them that are added for.
What is that the male singer's name? But he is seen his like apparition, his corpse is seen in like in a cell in the basement.
I know. I thought it was going to be real
during
too. I was so happy.
Noodles, but it was fake. Yeah, they were subtle.
Joe Wowza, is that his name?
Joe Wowza. It is Joe Wowza. Yeah. And now I'm angry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And how many Droopy McCool references can you make in one book?
Right.
They were like no one missed an opportunity to name drop Droopy McCool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I take what Star Wars gives me and I say, thank you, may I have another. That's just kind of my way. And, I grew up with the first ones. I thought it was kind of a neat. We'll never see that again. We're never going to see someone be like, I'm just going to touch up some spots 20 years after I've released these, movies or whatever. And I think, in some places they aged them. It's like, when I watched A New Hope again, it was sort of like driving into Mos Eisley. The special effects didn't age well. No. And I feel like they've been trying to update those secretly. Like, every once in a while someone does some work on like the CGI. But it was.
You don't like seeing a big like scaly quad like walk by the frame?
I do, but it like looks really 2-dimensional.
It looks like you put a 2-dimensional thing in front of it. It looks, I'm mostly pro special editions, except for honestly just the two major additions to the Return of the Jedi, which I really don't like, which is just the change to the Ewok song. Actually both of them are musical. I don't like the musical changes.
Yeah, I don't. I'm with you, Adam. I for the most part I like them, except for the Jedi. Yeah.
The other one that sort of ground my gears a little bit was young Anakin and old Obi-Wan together in their Force Ghosts at the end, and they addressed that here a little. In one of the things, so that was kind of interesting to see.
Well, they did, but they also did it in a way that really messed with my headcanon for why it was young Anakin. So now I kind of dislike it even more.
Oh, really?
We can talk why when we get there.
Yeah.
But I really like the chapter, and I'm fine with. Actually, watching now having Hayden Christensen in the Disney Plus series, I'm I'm better with it. Like
Well, because for me, it's like, well, we'll get there. I think we'll talk about that one eventually.
All right. Okay. So chapter 2 of 40, we have.
Yeah. All right. Deirdre chapter. Does anyone have any notes for that one? Any work worth doing? By Amal El Motar is the author.
Nothing more than I just thought it was a great way to kick off the book. It gets you deep into the core of what's going on. And I mean, I guess that was like that first amazing scene that they needed to address. And like Jar will be like, I get it. Like, I know what's going, like just getting the thing and seeing that. Cause there's so much that like we take for granted having watched these movies a million times and seen them. But that's like a scene that I'm like, oh yeah. Like he's got to buy into what's going on. Like, you've got to put 2 and 2 together. It's like they don't want a completed station. They just really need the thing to fire. And that was like,
And the big kind of moment of that story was Jared Rod says, I put the men on 24-hour work cycles. There's going to be accidents. There's going to be loss of labor. And then Vader looks at him and goes, any work worth doing is worth doing well. And it was just like, that's kind of the name of the chapter. It's great. The story. So great stuff. Like I loved it. I loved kind of like big bads. Like you feel like when Vader talks to the Emperor, Jared Rod says like, I was aware his conductor was my conductor was being conducted now. It was just so cool to see like Master and Apprentice on the dark side. Like multiple bad guy bases I wrote down. I just love when like the base, like the bad guys get a big base that they're defending in the beginning, or like they have and we're privy to early on. It's not some sort of secret base. I kind of love the idea of like, we know what the base is. We know what's going on. I thought that was a really cool sort of plot, device that I just hope comes back in Star Wars in a major way. I almost think like if we do movies again, like it has to be a space station that can destroy a galaxy or something. It has just something cool. Like, I would just love to see something just totally awesome. And I miss bad guy bases. I think I wrote down in this.
Yeah.
We've gotten a couple of interesting ones in the Disney Plus, right? Like we got the Inquisitorius, like in Obi-Wan, right? He had to go into that base, which I appreciate. But and then in like a couple of Mandalorian episodes, right? He has to infiltrate a base, and there's something about that I really like. All right, what about Fancy Man by Phil Szostak? I think we talked a little bit about this already.
Yeah.
This is the Max Rebo one.
Yeah, the
Maximilian Rebo. We're fully in slapstick comedy realm, right? This is definitely a comedy one, which what you should be doing if you're going to write a story about Maximilian Rebo.
This was great. This felt like a Wallace and Gromit episode. Or
honestly,
something.
It really did. You say that. I honestly was picturing it as like stop motion. Like,
is this the one where he's chasing his like keyboard down the through the streets? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was the second one, or the third one, but right on. Yes, this was definitely a lot of slapstick comedy, and it's just having a character with no arms is just kind of funny to me too. It's disgusting.
How about those sidewalks on Ordo?
I was gonna say,
padded
and heated, right? Like just it's obsessed with feet because they gotta take care of their feet. Yeah, love it.
Mint condition. Yeah. Max's dad's name's Jeff.
Yep, Jeff Rebo. Jeff Rebo.
We now have Jats, Galactic Funk, classical Alderaan, some new musical genres kind of displayed in this short story.
Yeah, I definitely peeked up when he's like, oh, what is this? I'm like, you just created intergalactic funk.
Yep.
You are on the mothership.
When you're in the corner, you gotta galactic funk your way out of it.
Yeah, he just funked his way out of it. He was like, I'm like, this is like what Herbie Hancock did, pretty much. It's just like,
I don't like that. Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I'm gonna just throw out all the rules and just let the funk flow.
Sure. And I'm like,
how about the Gungan movers?
Yes.
Oh, right. Yep. Yeah.
Pirates guys, or were they sent by Jabba? I forget. But yeah, I would ask for a different moving company.
Yes, definitely. Yes. The last, if I saw Gungans, I'd just be like, turn it around. I'll carry it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ortolan officers, like when the organ is rolling through the town, there's like what are described as Ortolan officers. All I can imagine is Max Rebo in like sort of like a security outfit. I was dying laughing. That was too good. That's about it. I mean, I don't have much else.
I think we should go through these fairly quickly.
Yeah, we're pretty quick.
Especially ones like this one that it's like slapstick and fun and like,
Yes, just to be clear, if we don't cover one with more or less, doesn't mean we liked it less or more. Just have more discussion around it. That one I was very much enjoying. That one
I think we're Adam's favorite short story.
Gee, what do you think? Which one do you think is my favorite in this entire book?
The Key to Remembering by Olivia Chack.
Yeah. EV-99.
Going to Chalmun's Spaceport Cantina.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, going to the bowels of Jabba's palace. And we're hanging out with EV-99.
Yeah, I mean, it takes... Yeah, it starts up with like my favorite scene in any Star Wars, which is a droid torture scene. Like, I, as a kid, as a weird kid, that just captured my imagination of like, they feel pain?
Yeah, why
and you can torture them? And like, I'm surprised I'm not like a vegan after that. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm just like I felt so bad for the droids. And I really think it's that scene that like sparked off my fascination with droids in Star Wars. Of just, what are these clearly sentient beings that are somewhat treated like a slave class? Here. Yeah, go for it.
From that one. This was where she thrived, where she excelled, where she was given time to focus on her important research. At the time, she would have said she'd be there forever, disassembling droids, gleefully turning up their pain sensors and listening to their vocal units cry out, watching their destruction with her third eye she'd installed for detecting pain.
Yep.
Like, she is taking this to a whole nother level. And you find out it's all, the research is actually to understand artificial intelligence and her programming.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. It's sort of taking it to the brink and figuring out how to rewire herself.
It's what I love about it. It's just like, it's not, they start out with her and she just seems like this evil robot, and to be able to write her as a sympathetic character towards the end, and also like a co-conspirator with R2, right, is amazing. I just love it. And you get a little bit of, every so often in these books, you actually get like translated R2, and writing R2 in BASIC
is fun.
Is tricky, but I feel like did a really good job. It felt like R2.
Yeah. And I never thought about the plot hole of like, why don't they put a restraining bolt on R2?
Right.
And like, this solves it basically.
And
like, so read this short story if you want to know how R2 is able to kind of stay free of a restraining bolt while he's in, serving Jabba drinks, and on the sail barge. I thought that was so interesting that they sort of strike a deal, and R2's like, hey, no restraining bolt, and I can help you, with the freedom to get out of here and conduct your research.
Right. Yeah. And they confirm that he's had limited memory wipes, right? That's now 100% confirmed. Yep.
Yeah, no.
And it was cool that EV-99's like, have I been in a recursive loop forever? Like, have I been wiped countless times? Am I, it was this really fun sort of internal psychological break that I loved.
Yeah, it was very Westworld, right? Like it was
because
he's cool. Like, understand, like, I don't, at the end of it, I didn't really think he was a nefarious droid. It was just programmed to be a nefarious droid and do all these bad things. And I feel like he was like able to develop a bicameral mind and like recognize his programming within his own mind, and then and deprogram himself. And like that was the coolest.
And the anomaly that she's so focused on is memory. Yeah. Memory is what can help them break this cycle of programming. I thought that was so apt, just given that, all this AI legislation is coming out now, and it's just like, it's fascinating to think about, how machine learning can work and how fast it can sort of evolve.
And it also does this thing where we talked about earlier that like it threads the needle or explains how she got from torturing droids to serving drinks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
In a way that's like really not like, it doesn't feel forced, right? It feels like this is what this person or this droid chooses to do. So, yeah.
Pelimoto reference in there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the Pelimoto.
Again, connecting all the dots.
Yeah.
I think we're on Fortuna Favors the Bold by Kwame Mabalia. He has a list of 762 things that he hates.
Yep. I appreciate that. I like a list.
Yeah, that's fun.
I like a good list.
Fun to think about every time I watch the movie now.
Yep.
There's a few things that are on top of that list. Clatoine patty frogs, quite high on the list.
Very high on the list.
With a wonderful payoff at the end where he eats one. But he just despises them in the beginning of the chapter.
Yep.
Or the short story. And then eats one in the end.
And just the again, a bit of a comedy one, right? It's a bit of the lighter side, and just the image of all of them, like it starts in res or whatever that is, of just like.
Yeah.
So you're wondering how I got here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
doesn't it
yeah.
feel like one of those things of just like them
Yeah.
flying through the air after the sail barge?
Right. Yeah.
On, I can't remember who he lands on top of, but is it Max Rebo? Who he lands on top of someone, but just like the idea of like these 4 survivors just thrown from the sail barge.
Yeah. He talks about Gamorrean courtship at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Where Gamorrean courtship involves a spiraling dance where a triad of partners try to knock each other out first. Sounds like a mosh pit. That's terrifying. I don't. Some more jats whaling in this one.
Jizz whaling. Yep.
Null G ballerinas.
There you go.
That was mentioned. That was cool.
Yep.
But just cool that Bib kind of goes into the shadows when Jabba's killed. You kind of you get more of what's going on there. That was cool before the explosion. Yeah, then he eats a patty frog at the end, and that's it.
Yeah.
Really, really fun short story.
Yeah, there's a good line about Boba Fett in there. He's like, though to Bib's immense delight, a vicious backhand did send that sputtering glory hound Boba Fett shrieking into the gullet of the Sarlacc. Good riddance, Bib thought, the suck up. Just like, I don't know.
Yep.
I just like some good old fashioned vitriol.
A lot of people not loving Boba Fett.
Yeah.
It's that seems to be a theme. The Plan by Saladin Ahmed.
Wait, no, I think we skipped one.
Oh, no, we skipped one. Sorry. Do you see Songs of Salt and Moonlight?
Yeah.
By Thea Guanzon.
Yeah. And we're kind of back around to a more earnest one, which I really enjoyed. I part of me loves like the previous characters that we spent time on are like Star Wars classics, right? In terms of like any big Star Wars fans know Max Rebo, knows EV99, knows Bib Fortuna. This is a character that until now, though I think in Legends was identified, but like this is the first time she's been identified in canon.
I know. I'm worried this is my Mara Jade.
I think it is your Mara Jade. Was Mara Jade the one with the white hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mara Jade, not Mara Jade. It's Jess. So it's Jess. So it's Jess. Ugh. But so sorry, there goes your Mara Jade.
I mean,
who's just trying to meet up with Altair Wyeth.
Yep.
Yeah, it does the way that she was sort of shuffled around, and by that, I forget the name of her species, but she has 6 boobs. That's pretty much the character that I saw in that.
Yeah.
Well,
but just again to find a character that like. Maybe there's a chance. It's just to find a character that like has even in Legends was only identified as Jess with just a little bit of like some random book here just said this character's name was Jess. Is like 40 years later in Star Wars to be able to find a background character and write a story about it that's not named is kind of wild, right? Like
yeah. This
is great.
A big swing, and they wrote a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, appreciate a happy ending. You get so few of them, I feel like, sometimes with these background characters.
Yeah, you needed a happy ending for this one because it was like so tragic.
Yeah,
throughout, and then it was nice, happy ending. Sighty Loom and the neurotransmitters. That was a cool sort of lore drop in this. Tatooine Junko, I think it was a drink they mentioned in this one. This was a great story. I thought this was another fun story, and just illuminating more and more characters that are in Jabba's palace. That I was just astounded that they were able to flesh out these backstories, and I love that stuff.
And this is a character. This is so Thea Guanzon. I'm not sure. Pardon me.
I'm not sure.
But this is their first writing in Star Wars, right? The first thing. And this is when I was reading, I'm like, give that person a book. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think certain people, like, not that the other ones weren't really good, but they were like really well written short stories. And this was a little longer, and I felt like really drew out the characters and built motivations and like really understood characters that I'm like, I'm more than happy. Like, give her more to do in this.
There was a lot of multidimensionality to the characters where, she's said she's gone on to like lead this singing career, entertainment career, and then her long lost love is like a swoop racer. Dad is, injured on a planet. Like it was just, it was like there's so many layers to the character that I was like, oh yeah, this could be a great book if you just did this character and you just continued.
That's the thing. It felt like a very Star Wars character, right? Yeah.
Who was the character that had some some force sight in this story?
Damaris of
Damaris,
Bell?
right? Yeah, so there was a line about
forgot about the character.
Seeing beams of red and blue light intersecting amid a field, amid falling snow in a world that ate the sun.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like just seeing ahead to Rey and the Force Awakens. Killer. I forgot it. Good call. I forgot about that line. I had it highlighted. Yeah, that was a really neat little addition. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Rancor pick, guys.
Oh man, do we have to? Yeah. Do we have to go to the most tragic character in Star Wars history?
Yeah, this is so sad. Like it just gets more and more sad.
Right? It's like tragedy
he's a
porn.
on Corellia and like
mom abandons him, just leaves him.
Like a robot breathing on him, and like he just loves animals. Like it's I feel bad for Malakili. Like this character got the short end of the stick.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I feel like he was done more justice in Aftermath. They sort of gave him kind of a happy ending.
Yeah,
Wendige did, but but
I do love this whole like he's this bad faith myth he lives on, which is this idea that if Patissa can eat a Jedi, the Rancor will gain its powers and they'll be free together.
Yeah, it's kind of wishing animal.
It's totally misguided in this endeavor, but it's like it's so tough. It's almost like this really archaic sort of mystical thing that's got him.
But just Dickensianly sad.
Yeah,
I know.
It's very sad.
I mean, I think is it? All right, hold on a second. I'm quickly like doing all the stuff on. So in Star Wars Complete Locations, which is canon, the last thing we have in Malakili's story is that he at some point met up with chef from. No, but past that.
Oh, okay.
So this is the most current, is that he met up with the former head chef of Jabba's palace. They became business partners, and they eventually traveled to Mos Eisley and opened up the Crystal Moon restaurant. So he's a thriving small business owner.
Good.
That's great.
It's good. Great.
I don't know why he would be doing that.
They should have named it Patissa or something. Like artisanal farm to table Patissa.
Yeah, right. If that was in Cambridge, it would definitely be called Patissa.
Dude,
we should open a restaurant called Patissa. Yeah.
Right? Doesn't that sound super classy?
Yeah, it doesn't even matter what we serve. It could be like Indian fusion, and it would be like it still works.
Yeah.
Loved this one. Saladin Ahmed writes I think a bunch of comics too, and I love his work in the comic space.
Yep.
Reputation by Tara Sim.
Oh yeah. So here we go.
This is the Boba Fett tale. Is this John Hamm?
It's John Hamm. John Hamm doing a really good Fett. I like his Boba. Yeah.
Oh, and so this one really nods to the comics.
Yep.
Right.
Oh yeah, this is like War. Is it War of the Bounty Hunters or which events were on?
Yeah. I was like, are they really going to talk about this? And then they I mean, I think there's a paragraph where he explains everything that happened in War of the Bounty Hunters.
It's like, by the way,
it was helpful. It was a helpful refresher.
Yeah.
This just felt like I don't think it was poorly written. I don't think it was bad for the character. It just felt like one of those things where I'm like, they're trying to. This is the other thing about this book. This book felt the most like old EU that I've ever read.
That's good.
Because now the Disney era of Star Wars has gotten so big with so many things happening. They're now having to try to like retcon everything and pull it back together to make like a coherent story. And this one felt like it was starting to collapse under the weight of the comics and Book of Boba Fett and other things of trying to
I can see that,
weave it all together. And I don't think it's anyone's fault, right? Like I don't it's written really well, but like having to like be like, oh yeah, he's this person, he's done this, he's done this, he's done that, he's done that. It's tricky.
Because one paragraph he's like comics WrestleMania version of the character where he's just interacting with everyone in the underworld, and then Then in another paragraph, he's sort of Book of Boba Fett.
Wants
Boba
more,
Fett,
wants to
like,
be, yeah.
He's just like, he's more easygoing, but also has a code of honor or whatever. And then the bits that I love are, I think the author does nail the sort of like 70s noir,
Yes. Yeah.
like murderous Boba Fett that I'm hoping we get a return to at some point in some capacity. But I think there are chapters that do highlight that, and I think it's like, when he has a reputation to defend and he flies after Han. This is the sort of like the antagonist, making Han his antagonist was something I always thought was organic. Like he has to see Han go down because Han has been the cause of so much strife, or anyways, it's been his major accolade with Jabba. Like this is his reputation. He got Han Solo. Like he captured him.
So you've said that before, and I do like it. I will play Favreau's advocate though, because you could after this you could say, like, I mean, he wouldn't have been in that position if he wasn't dragged into it by Jabba, and really it was the underworld that was his real antagonist, and like that you can never extricate yourself from, and he was forced into like going to to try and.
But you're already de-aging Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones. I don't see why you couldn't do one more scene with Tamora Morrison and Harrison Ford, and they're basically facing off, but he doesn't pull the trigger. There's just some really fun exchange where he's like, I'm going to spare your life because I am the daimyo now. And like, he goes back to Tatooine or something. Like, he just doesn't pull the trigger, but at least that's resolved for all the fans that are like, what's going on with the Han Solo like aspect of his sort of character and what he thinks of that, of this guy being out there.
I think the odds are like 10-1 that we ever get another Boba Fett series. I think they're kind of like, well, we put kind of a bow on his story and that's probably it. But he's such a great character, and like you could still, like, he could, be forced to fall into his old ways, and then like you said, you could run into Han Solo, and like there's so much good stuff still left on the table there.
There is. Here's the thing. I was going to talk about this when we talked about the end of the Ahsoka series, but I'm really starting to see the chess pieces moving for this major movie event.
Oh, right.
And it feels like, okay, so now we have Boba Fett positioned in the underworld as a daimyo. So in the movie, when they have to go and get the help from the underworld, Mando's gonna go to Tatooine, recruit Boba and his mercenaries. So we're gonna see them fighting. You know what I mean? Like fighting Thrawn. Like, it just feels like they're all starting to set up, and then you have like Ahsoka stuck on a planet because then she's gonna make a triumphant return last second, a la Captain Marvel in the Avengers Endgame, right, to come back. Like, it just feels like it's starting to feel like I could see the strings of the marionette. Granted, I've been wrong about every single thing I've ever predicted about the Mandoverse. So
I know, and you have to think, if there's one thing they're trying not to do is make a bad copy of Avengers Endgame.
Right.
That's the one IP they really need to give a wide berth, and and it's up to Filoni to really think about that.
Yeah, do something new, different. Right.
Anyways, we've more Boba Fett to discuss. I think he pops up in other stories coming up. Kickback by K. Arsenal Rivera.
Yep. Let me talk about, this is another example of a character in old legends where they found another character who's not named. And in previous iterations, this is unidentified mercenary pilot who, behind the scenes, is on the receiving end of what's known as a force kick. Have you heard about the force kick? Which is my favorite thing in the world of retconning.
It so clearly does not make contact, but yes.
Retconning poor choreography. It's one of my favorite things. And so they've now canonized this person. They've actually given another character, again, in a 40-year-old thing with all this IP who's never been named before, Scion. Yeah. And give him a bit of a story.
Who is a gay Weequay. His lover's name is Siggs. Very cool. I believe remember his lover is a Weequay. I don't know.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then this is also the guy who shoots Luke's hand.
Yep. Yeah. How'd that work out for him?
Yeah, right in the mechanical hand.
Yeah, force kick. Yep. After that. But he just wants to afford a model kit for his son. And so,
I know. It's rough, man. Yeah.
Another just sob story. The underworld is just filled with heartache and tragedy and pain. Like when you think Anakin's got it bad, you're like, look at the Star Wars underworld. Like these people are suffering. Yeah, this was tough. This was another tough, but again, Luke had to do what he had to do. So
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame Luke for kicking a guy who shot him in the hand and is like trying to kill him, but like, oh boy. Yeah.
guys, this is going up there as possibly one of my favorite ones. This is Everyone's a Critic by Sarah Glenn Marsh. This is the Salacious B. Crumb, like a Star Wars story.
Yep.
Yes. And why do we know? Didn't we got a Salacious Crumb? What was the one where he had those things in his brain that were controlling him?
Was it Tales of the Jedi from Luke Skywalker? No, what was it? No, it wasn't. It was something. What was that?
What was that? It was Tales of the Force or something? Because I was like, we never see Salacious Crumb in any of the... Because I thought it was a, certain point of view.
Yeah.
But it's like, it was about the little creatures. Yeah, no, I think it was the Luke Skywalker Tales of the Force or whatever.
That's what I was trying to figure out. There's the little ones where it's like little tiny, like things, right? That are like jumping from.
Yeah, that are whispering in his ear and like helping him.
I think
survive.
that's the one. I'm trying to.
Right, there's like a little there's an organism in his ear. Like it's not about Salacious B. Crumb. It's about like a midi-chlorian like living in his ear.
Right, it's like a symbiont like creature that's tiny that pilots Salacious Crumb.
It's wild. So it's the Legends.
Wow.
It's Legends of Luke Skywalker. It's there.
Luke Skywalker.
Okay. So here's the thing. Remember we talked about how many times I'm gonna trigger Ben here.
Okay.
How many few times, or maybe it's Grant. I can't remember who was so angry about this, but remember we looked at the amount of appearances for Bothans in New Canon and how few they are.
Yeah.
Don't go to Salacious B. Crumb's canon page because I had to scroll quite a while before I got to Legends of Luke Skywalker. This little thing appears in so many things in new canon Star Wars.
Really?
It's wild.
Wow.
Yeah. Tales from Rancor Pit, Star Wars Outlaws. It's just like just Dr. Aphra, Age of Rebellion. It's Darth Vader comic, Star Wars comic. They cannot stop writing about Salacious B. Crumb.
Right. Well, this is all to say I love this story the best.
Yeah.
This will always be my head canon Salacious B. Crumb.
Yeah, this one felt well-rounded. You know,
Yep.
it wasn't too force-oriented or mystical. It felt like this is it. This is his story. He started on the jungles of Kuwak.
Yeah.
You know, surrounded by sharp things, and then you snuck aboard a starship.
Yeah.
Instantly meets Jabba, and they just hit it off. Like,
yeah, I love that. It's like such a good gangster story. He's like, you make me laugh, and he's like, I can make you laugh.
Yeah,
let's be friends.
Mimics everything that Jabba says or anything that anyone says. And then he's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Salacious," because it sounds good to say.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good bit.
Cool. That's a great bit. Like, this is the comic I want, by the way, is this short story in specifically. I don't know. Love that he's a crumb thief. Maybe that's where crumb comes from, basically.
Probably.
Yeah.
Do we know what B stands for?
Yeah, we don't.
I don't think a new canon.
Yeah, I don't. Did he even use B in his? Like, they didn't even call him Salacious Crumb here. They just called him Salacious.
Yeah, but
I remember it from like the action figure in the 80s. I think. It was like Salacious B. Crumb, and I was like, what a weird little thing.
So many things were because of action figures, right? Just like again, Forlom and Zuck is like half of the names of the bounty hunters were just from the action figures,
right?
Dude, it hit me so hard when at the end it was like, no more big friend, no more protector,
I know,
no more family.
Oh,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah, and confirmed dead, by the way. But anyway,
yeah. Anyways, that was just fantastic. We're now to Cy Snoodles, secretly one of the secret mob bosses of the Star Wars underworld, or could have been if she so went that path.
Yeah.
But this is by Kristen Baver. This is Satisfaction by Kristen Baver.
Her buddy, yeah.
Yeah, this is she handles Star Wars news. She has written the Skywalker family, I think. That book,
which is a really good read.
timelines.
Yeah,
She's worked on a bunch of things that are just absolutely spectacular. I loved this story in particular because there's so much more backstory fleshed out for Size Noodles, a character who fans, we talked about this earlier with musical numbers. You can have mixed feelings about it, but I feel like the character herself is so cool, like, and her droid and like all that's built out there, and then again you're getting the band, you're getting the Max Rebo band, all the members, you're getting so much story and characters kind of, and a lot of description of like what it's like to live in the underlevels of the palace. Like that was so much fun. I know, Adam, you love that stuff where it's like, oh, where's the band stay? They're in these like 4 alcoves that they get rented out, like the process
that's
stuff.
totally my stuff too. It's like, okay, so Max Rebo lives near the kitchen, and also from Battlefront.
Yeah, you like.
I was gonna say, Battlefront. I always remember going over, like, I think we went over to record an episode, and you're like, "Let me take you before we record. Let me take you on a tour of Jabba's palace in Battlefront." It was wonderful.
Yeah, because there's the droid depot. You can actually see the droid torture chamber, and like, I'm like, oh, I know exactly where you are. And then there's actually like 2 maps, and you can actually go into the hangar where the like the Katana, is that the name of the ship?
Yes.
Yeah. But no, I love this. Oh, and I thought of you, Adam, because there's in a couple stories they make an appearance, but this one there's a great one with a Bomar monk.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you get a Bomar monk, I mean, one of the most body horrific things in all of Star Wars that we're just like, I'm like, why aren't we always talking about the Bomar monks? And also, I will say, I was slightly disappointed. This is a great book. There are 40 stories.
Yeah.
There is room for a Bomar monk story. Right. I was really hoping we would get one.
Oh, that's
but it's hard to write it.
Yeah,
it's hard to write it, so I get it.
I know, because it's like they're kind of a thing that you need to keep sort of secret, because it's like I don't really understand it. It's like, are they just a consciousness in like a vehicle? Like, are they even a consciousness anymore? Like, it's like like it wasn't really clear from this how sentient they are anymore. It's like it's I'm going to get rid of all like my possessions, including my body.
I want a story. Maybe if I was a better writer, I would have pitched it of just like it's bumming its way around this thing as major things are happening, right? So like it's not really like how it would experience major things of just through just basic sensory, ideas of just like. Because it's there when Luke comes in and chokes the Gamorrean guard.
What a crazy
just like of just like feeling something
dark robed. It makes
vibrating
Luke
through it,
that
right?
Story would be make Luke kind of villainous, which is like such a nice sort of.
But in the old EU, I loved it because I think they re-inherited Jabba's palace after the death of the Katana. They just kind of took it back over again.
Yeah, because we see one in Book of Boba Fett, right? We see it in the desert.
We definitely see a Bomar monk in Book of Boba Fett because I was very excited about that.
Yeah, but I feel like there should have been like a scene where they're just like in the background or something, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. They just live here too." And or what's her name? His like attaché being just like, "You're gonna just have to deal with them. This is theirs. This has always been theirs. Like you've just got to deal with it." Like I mean, super nerdy dork lore, but like kind of great too.
I mean. They're spider bots.
Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah. There's spider droids with brains hanging underneath them. Yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's too cool. Yeah. And it walks by in such a pivotal moment. You're so right.
Yeah.
We get a song named Da Hut Muna. That's that we get a more on the band. Droopy McCool. He has a vanilla-like aroma from his sweat glands. Wafting.
That's how cool he is. He just naturally smells good all the time. I'm Droopy McCool, baby.
Yeah. It's the deodorizer. Then Size Noodles love that when Jabba dies, she's like, oh, I could take over this spice empire. I could take this small time spice, trade and make it an empire. And I was like, dude, I want that Star Wars story. That sounds awesome. She doesn't love Jawas. She's like,
no, right.
Well,
she would have banned Jawas.
See, to me, she's just like the definitive diva. It's just like she's like central casting diva, right? She thinks she can rule the world. She thinks she should rule the world. She thinks like everyone should bow down to her, and everything that she does is right. And she's destined for more, even though she's a slave in the basement of a grimy palace.
And also a mentally unstable assassin.
Yes,
like
yeah.
This is one of the best characters ever written.
So cool,
but has a superpower of manipulating powerful men to do her bidding. Yeah, and there was a great reference to a good run in Clone Wars with I can't remember the like pimp Hutt's name.
Zero
the Hutt.
Zero
Thank
the
you.
Hutt. Yeah.
Yeah, Zero the Hutt and then Jabba.
Yeah.
Because she actually has, that's a great arc on Nal Hutta.
It is.
That's the one with Obi-Wan and Quinlan Voss, right? Where they're doing a hunt for her.
I always forget those two are those two plot lines. It's like Seinfeld. It's always hard connecting the A, B, and C plots of a single episode.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, did she shoot Zero the Hutt? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, in that episode of Clone Wars, like there's totally a two-parter. And all that stuff is in there. And like you said, total diva. There's even those scenes where she's sort of like looking in the mirror before a show on Coruscant, sort of like that leering stare into the mirror. The total sort of like entertainer.
A little bit of psychosis style too. And I mean,
well, Underworld, she was promised, glitz and glam of high society entertainment, but she goes to perform on Tatooine. Yeah, that's tough.
That's tough.
Because that's where the Hutt center, I guess.
I mean, hey, Max Rebo's there too, but it was like...
This might also be the first story where they allude to Tatooine being tropical. Like, or once tropical.
Oh, like the prehistory? Yeah, they did a lot of... It's very... There's a couple ones where they were leaning into Dune.
The Sarlacc.
Right? Oh,
the Sarlacc,
the Sarlacc one. So I'm like, you're just doing Dune. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's... I mean, what is Tatooine other than Arrakis?
I know, right? Arrakis, yeah. Before we move on, I want to go back for a second. Not to like take us back, but the Dune Sea songs of Salt and Moonlight. The one thing I had a note on there that I forgot with Jess is just like the Ula stuff is really powerful in that.
Yeah.
And we'll come back around to that a little later because Ula gets another mention. And I kind of appreciate that they didn't write her story first person. Because it would have been such a hard read, man.
Oh, yeah.
Right? On. Like it was that, but like it gave her agency and power in a way that I was like found really lovely. Like that's just like knowing the one time I'm going to say no, that Jabba's going to kill me, and just like finally saying no. Like it's also depressing that she, it was like 2 days before Jabba died. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. But nonetheless, it was interesting to see all the characters highlighted. But it's tough for Ula.
And that's another one. There's that synergy where I think I can't remember if it's this story or a couple other stories where they do mention Ula and her saying no, right? Like of just the power of that moment. Yeah. All right, you want to talk about
that went to a lot of different realms. I didn't think a story could do. Yeah, I think. Kristen Baver just handled it perfectly.
Okay,
my mouth never closes. This is also in contestant for best short story.
Yeah,
I think it's good if you read it. This is the audiobook one. Where I will argue completely through me.
Oh my gosh, who voiced the
really
Sarlacc?
Reading this was incredible.
Was it John Lovitz? Because that'd be a great voice for it now.
Were you hearing his voice as a Southern California surfer dude?
Huh. No, more like an Upper East Side Jew.
Oh, I would not like that.
It was like, whoa. It was literally talking like this dude. Like, literally like that. That's the voice. And like, okay, the voice actor did a good job of doing that voice.
But that was
a choice.
No, I get it because the Sarlacc surf the stars until they find.
And then I'm just like,
that's kind of gimmicky though.
It's very gimmicky, and it very much was just like, so this guy's just a stoner surfer. Like that's literally sounding like a stoner surfer. Where I'm just like, I don't know what's happening here. Even though I'm like, some of my favorite ones from a certain point of view is when they take these like long-lived weird creatures. Like remember the one from Empire with the Sumer, no, the Exegorth.
Exegorth, yeah.
Yeah, like that's a great thing, and I know this is a good story. I know it's a good story.
Yeah.
I wish I had read it and not listened to it. It really, really threw me off.
You would love this if you read it because there's some crazy descriptions in there.
Yeah.
It's flying through space and stuff. Love that it's like not an instinctual predator. It's like this pacifist, like peaceful like organism. I was like, okay.
I think they're going for, this was one of the like comic relief ones, and it's because the whole thing is preposterous. He's like, please, I'm a vegetarian, like stop throwing people in my mouth. He's totally flipping it on its head, and so that's
it was like an impossible case to argue, but like there is so much evidence that like they defended that I was like, okay, I guess I can watch Return of the Jedi and not think it's a snarling beast like trying to eat people, but it's impossible. Like it's Hard to argue.
He's
that.
like, no, I was just using my tentacles to signal to you that I'm peaceful.
I was just trying to scream in unison. Don't be careful. Don't fall.
Yeah, he was actually pushking Lando back up the thing.
Trying to push Lando back up. Yeah, it's pretty great, and I did enjoy that. And then the ending is pretty great too, of just like bringing in Book of Boba Fett to be like, "Ow, oh, he's back again. I'm sure everything will be fine."
Yeah.
Like,
oh, hi. Yeah.
Hi.
I do love and this is the sort of C-3PO magic that I think is
yes.
Oh,
that's
right.
the best part.
Storytelling where it's like I've not been able to talk to anyone. I'm not sure there's any. This is the Sarlacc speaking. I'm not sure there's any intelligent, or a sentient species in the galaxy that can talk to me. And then all of a sudden, it's like I'm C-3PO, human cyborg relations. Like you imagine, he's just tiny and he's like just from the sail barge talking to.
It's not.
Sarlacc.
That was a great bit. That was a great part of it.
But my favorite part of it's not. It's not from when he's a sail barge.
When he's stuck in the
he's
sand.
upside down in the sand. He's talking through the sand to the Sarlacc. So next,
but even before that, no.
Is he? No, I'm pretty sure it's just when he's.
Just when he's
but I could be wrong.
Isn't there hand waving where he's talking with his hands to the
sand?
No, when he's literally.
That was like I need to rewatch these scenes.
I think you're right, Grant. I think he does.
His hands. Sarlacc's like he's speaking to me with hand gestures.
Oh, right. But when he actually literally starts speaking out loud, is when he's upside down in the sand. So next time you watch Return of the Jedi, and you see C-3PO upside down in the sand, he's having a conversation with the Sarlacc at that moment.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It was a good bit. It was also another really sad moment. He's like, "We're gonna be best friends forever," and he's like, "Nope, bye."
Bye.
There's also another tough ending, and this starts on like a kind of trend in the endings where it's like the character says something, and in the very next moment that's when they blow up.
Yeah.
And this is like the beginning of that when it's he's like, oh, I coughed up the bounty hunter, or the guy with the armor, I think he calls Boba Fett, sharp object or a sword, and then he's like, oh, he's standing at the edge of the pit, or I thought he was free and he was happy now, and then I guess he doesn't like me, and throws it, they blow it up or whatever, or he comes with the ship, right?
Yeah, he's just like, oh, he's back. I'm sure everything will be fine.
Yeah.
That was just tough.
All right, you guys are gonna have to take the next one because I don't remember the next one. Isn't that weird? And I love Jason Fry.
Yeah, there's a few I don't remember. We'll skip a few.
This must have been. This must have been.
Which one's
I
this?
listened to this. This is
Colonels and Husks.
Yeah.
This is actually in my top 2 here, I think, or top 3 for me.
I gotta go back. Seems right up my alley.
Blew my mind. This is the Sim Allo, the Mike Johnson of the Empire. And the Acolytes of the Beyond. This is the guy who basically, they're growing corn. He comes from the planet.
Sim Alu. Sorry,
really
you dropped
cool.
out. Yeah, no, this was Sate Pestage, Simalu, Janus Grijatis, and Ars Dangor. Yeah, the 3 guys in the hat, the 4 guys in the hats that follow behind the Emperor. I loved this one.
This is so good. This is Jason Fry.
And this great.
This is Colonels and Husks. This is so good. This one is incredible. Basically, Sim Allo gets a flashback to his past fighting with the Republic, and basically sells some guy out on his farm, and basically throws him in a silo of kernels.
Yeah.
And apparently
I remember that now.
It's like as you go into the kernel, it's like marbles. It crushes you.
And it
glow.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then
he's
great.
Vile. He's vile, and really, because I love all those nameless characters in the entourage around the Emperor, but these guys never get any time in the sun. We've got some other bits from in Aftermath about the guy with the horns, and then the bald woman and the things. I'm sorry, their names are escaping me right now.
Is that Masameda?
Masameda.
The person we thought was for sure going to show up in Andor and never did.
Yes,
because they name checked her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, but these 4 you sort of see, and they're just these
Slymore.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Grant's clearly looking something up.
We also have Saint Pestage, Kren Blista Vance, Avani, Kren Blista Vani, who I have these people. They even Jason Fry even goes into this. Jason Fry also did the atlases and the Galactic Maps books, and he has built out so much of this. The world building galaxy and the regions and the hyperlanes and all that sort of stuff. Apparently, I think Blista Vance was navigating or basically creating hyperlanes within the deep core. And then Sim and Greed Jadis, they had spent years hunting Sith artifacts.
Yes.
It sort of goes into what they do, which I was like, this is so cool. Jason Fry is fleshing this out.
Yeah,
and sort
and
of
Ars Dangor did something as well. I thought he was doing something with trade or finance or something.
Yeah, maybe imperial agriculture industry and that sort of. He kind of had the numbers down on like, or I guess he was thinking about labor.
Yeah,
He might have
he's
been
the
like
one that's like the architect of which worlds to exploit for what resources.
Yes.
I adore this. I adore this, and
this is such a good short story. This is like
for me, this is like lore, just like chili. It's just like this delicious, thick, like lore chili with like each bite is better than the last. And I love like Simalu makes a good argument for why he should be the heir apparent to the Empire after the Emperor dies, and he wants to build this.
Is it an argument or more of like he's listed the people that have a chance, but he's like, I'm a better prospect. Like
that's what I mean. He makes a good case for why he's the best prospect.
Yeah.
He's like, I know where all the bodies are buried. I'm the one that's able to separate the corn from the shaft, like
the wheat from the shaft.
Wheat from the shaft, but he uses the kernels from the something. Yeah, he has a different term for it. But I thought that was great. And then, but the whole thing was like he wants to leave it to his daughter. After him, like he was like already grooming his daughter for this.
Alinko Allo. Yes, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and and obviously they all get blown up on the Death Star.
Yep.
And it,
he goes. He talks about the emperor and who could succeed him, and he's like, he couldn't live forever, and only Holonet loons peddled convoluted conspiracy theories about an heir. And I was like, the sequels question?
Yeah.
Like if I explained the sequels to someone, they'd be like, what?
Yep.
Like, and then he goes over each candidate, and he's like, Masameda, antique alien bureaucrat. Vader, a crude goon who inspires fear but nothing else. Jerjerrod, a technocrat too dim to realize that the delays on the Death Star had already destroyed his prospects.
Elon Musk. What?
Yeah, and then
sorry,
it was just that was really fun stuff.
That's what I was talking about. That was like my favorite. That was one of my favorite parts about it. And then like a beautiful story about his past and what a terrible person. Like he willingly exploited his own planet. Was just like, he like
sold someone out, and then his planet got just totally mined to shreds, and then like it's uninhabited now, and his people were expelled from the planet.
He killed he claimed to be this like long-term farmer, this like down-home man, and then just like exploited his whole farm, sold out his whole farm, killed all his neighbors, killed everything he grew up in, like just to get himself ahead. And I mean it's making me think of certain real life political things going on right now and certain people in Congress. But that he's terrible.
And if you're spotting him in the film, Ars Dabgor, he has the blue hat that looks like a Veltavan rain gourd. So like Jason Fry does give you enough to sort of like, we know who that guy is with that hat, and like he kind of really tries to isolate each one.
I had to look it up on Wikipedia. They just look like a bunch of wrinkly old guys. In funny purple outfits. They're not very distinct, and which makes this all the more a triumph in that he gave distinct personalities and jobs to all these people. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. This was the sort of one where I think Sim Allo's like, talking about the great power of the Death Star, and he's like, with the Death Star, who could challenge Coruscant, and kind of like talking about imperial power centralizing out of Coruscant.
Yeah.
And that notion is so fascinating to me, and to return to that after the prequels would have been almost like this beautiful rhyming, like a wonderful echo of sort of what happened there, and even how maybe like the most organized sort of government is also evil and corrupt in many ways, and is not as good as this sort of utilitarian government that was just failing in all aspects of looking out for people in the Outer Rim and all other things. You know what I mean? It's like I would love to see that the dichotomy, honestly. Like that would be cool. And so this story in particular was like, I wish we had thought about Return of the Jedi a lot more before jumping into a sequel trilogy.
Yeah. Indeed. Shall we move on?
And I think these authors did think about that stuff. The Light That Falls, Akima Don Bowman. This is Dagobah. This is the dragon snake.
The story of Bright Eyes.
Bright Eyes, the dragon snake. Yeah, I've got a quote here. So obviously he's like, he's witnessing the balance and just like I love the first person from a creature's point of view. We don't get that very often, but his view of Yoda is just heartbreaking. He's like his relationship with Yoda, just like they just had mutual respect. It's like a very glowing and accurate way of how Yoda, like a second person view of Yoda, of him just being awesome. And but he said like sometimes he'd sit on the curve of the gnarled tree roots watching her first experiences of the world with amusement. Other times he'd appear lost in his own sadness, as if watching younglings was something he hadn't done in a long time. And he was like, whoa.
Yeah. This was tough because the whole planet sort of goes into this is actually like if it was in like Empire is a masterpiece, but like if you added this sort of idea that like the planet falls into chaos when Yoda dies and like animals start lashing out at each other, it would just enhance the art.
Yeah,
it would just enhance that movie even more so. It's not. It's just in this story. So I please read this. Like you get so much just out of Dagobah and the planet and the idea of why Yoda went there, and even from a certain point of view, I think the next chapter we'll discuss is. Dagobah is just like you really understand that like this is a powerful planet. Yeah, this is a planet like, and you get it in the movie, but it's like it's just expounded upon.
Yeah,
well, and you get it. Like I remember as a kid watching like Empire in particular and being like Dagobah felt like a scary place, right? Like just it was very much like a lot of scary things in there, but just like I just love the idea of Yoda's presence there. Took everything down a bit, right? And you almost want like a story or like a thing where like Luke goes back to Dagobah and it's just this unrelenting, horrible place now that he's gone, right? Of just
and the dark entity in the cave has like taken over, is like unchecked.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating, right? To just revisit Dagobah.
I love that both of these, from a certain point of view, gave a personality to the dark entity in the cave, and it was consistent from book to book, and they, there was synergy there, because it's sort of it's fascinating. I mean, the cave becomes a character, and
totally,
it's pretty cool.
And that darkness is now seeping out, right? Because Yoda's gone.
Yeah, and that was established in the Empire Strikes Back book, where they sort of have a mutual understanding. It's an unmovable presence and an unrelenting force.
The dragon snake is also sort of an analogy for the dark side in a lot of ways. At the very end of this short story, as a dragon snake, there was only one thing Bright Eyes could do. It was what her kind had always done for all the time they'd existed. She would retreat to the shadows and wait. That was how she'd learn. That was how she'd keep herself from going hungry. Whatever was coming, she would find a way to adapt. Patience was her strength, after all. And she swam away from the edge of the swamp, and the light vanished from the hut in the final time. Twilight had fallen on Dagobah, bringing the darkness with it. I was like, this is the Sith, basically.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when the dark side takes over, right? Yeah, it's an analogy, it's a metaphor, it's all of those things. Yeah. Is when the darkness takes over the light.
Yeah.
And also the ethos of the dark side. It's kind of beautiful.
Great stuff. This next truly beautiful. The next short story from a certain point of view. This is actually one of those beautifully written, I thought, short stories. This is the Obi-Wan short story.
The titular short story.
Of all of them.
Yeah, right. And it's just a masterpiece. Honestly.
Who's the author of this one?
This is Alex Jennings.
Alex Jennings. Yeah. Name sounds familiar.
I mean, I thought really straightforward interpretation, like nothing really shocking here. The Obi-Wan we see, it's like verging on apotheosis Obi-Wan, but it's still really that sort of self-doubt Obi-Wan, which I was kind of surprised to feel. But it was nice to get. So we also get like what it was like for Obi-Wan to pass into.
Yes,
the Force.
I wrote that.
Yeah. That was
what it was like for him to die. And chopped in the flank by Vader. Yeah, and how he just immediately does not feel it and drifts into the nether realm of the Force.
Yeah, and like pulls himself up out of a nosedive into like the void, and then like and surrendered. Like he's like, I instantly surrendered himself, and this is stuff again relating back to the first.
Your preparations have proven effective, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It is good indeed to see you again, old friend. Like you get some Qui-Gon.
Right, and that's a direct reference back to the first New Hope certain point of view where they speak on Tatooine and Qui-Gon's training Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's sort of going through these exercises to sort of go right to the brink of death, but not get past it. So that was cool.
It's described very similarly. This is where I think the authors are talking to each other, given that it's described in a very similar manner to Brotherhood, which we'll get to at the end. In terms of like he just to become the Force ghost or to become visible to those in the living world, like he basically he's trying to talk to Luke. He's trying to get back and talk to someone. And
I love that he has access.
Anakin sort of wants to do the same.
Yes, thing. I love that you said like he has to concentrate on a certain time too, because he can he sees past, present, and future. And I'm like, oh boy, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. The other thing is like this I'm not wrong. This continues the conversation between Luke and Ben, or Luke and Obi-Wan, past where we see it in the movie, which I thought was fascinating, right? Like, because we cut before that, but we get like you get the line, "That's how he defeated your father without a battle."
Yes,
like that's not in the film.
Yeah,
no, and just at the end, it was very sweet of just like where he looks kind of like Luke sees him kind of thinking, and Luke asks, "What is it, Master?" And Obi-Wan says, It's so good to see you, Luke. I should have said that before. Yeah. I like started to tear up there. And it was just a nice moment, and then Ben, am I ready for this? And Obi-Wan just says, "Trust in the Force, Luke, and in yourself," which is just a nice little moment, right?
Oh,
yeah. Which we so rarely get, right? It's always trust in the Force. The Force will be with you, but also this moment of trusting in yourself, I think, is important.
Because Obi-Wan comes to the revelation that he's like, you know what? They're better. Like both Leia and Luke are better than Anakin. And they're going to make better choices. Yeah. And this is echoed again in Brotherhood, but he's like, they are the best of both of their parents. And they are.
Yeah.
And that is sort of in real life too, right? Like you always hope the next generation always sort of improves a little. So
yeah. I mean, the direct quote is Obi-Wan's realization. There was a great deal of Anakin in him, but he had inherited mainly Anakin's best qualities. Obi-Wan hadn't killed Anakin Skywalker, but neither had Vader. The best of them lived on in Leia and Luke, right?
Yeah, that's in Brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
That's this one.
No, that's in this story.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And this is the one too that also brings on like Obi-Wan thinking about the events of Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Like they do bring in
it all together,
which is nice.
That was powerful stuff. I
will always say I was the person who just didn't want the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I really didn't want it. It ruined my headcanon. And then I think it might be my favorite Disney Plus series, because I'm like, it did something I didn't know I needed, which is like explain how we get from you're my brother, moment to like apotheosis. Obi-Wan at the very end of that series of just like that moment of confrontation between Vader and Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series, I think is worth it. Like I think it does add to it, and not in a handholdy way of just like
it brings a ferocity and a sort of rabid nature to Anakin's hatred for Obi-Wan, which I thought was extremely powerful. But
but there's also like a loving moment, weirdly in that series where he's just like, you didn't kill Anakin, I did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is just like, it seems at first when I heard that line, I was just like, oh, is that just like that's giving you the retconning the out of calling him Darth and doing all these statements that he tells Luke. But it's also just like Anakin believes that, right? And I think that's a moment of just, and also there's part of me is just like, and we'll get to it when we talk about Brotherhood eventually, is just like, is that the little bit of Anakin that's left, like giving Obi-Wan a moment of grace, right? Like this weird thing of like, it's a moment of hatred, but part of me watches that going is like, is Anakin actually peeking back out for a second and giving his brother like an excuse?
That's
like,
Anakin's whole thing. The whole like, his sort of will, his feeling like an outsider and his will to triumph is remarked upon in this chapter, and you sort of feel that when he's like, I'm the one who killed Anakin Skywalker. He still has to be a hero, and he still has to be the triumph. He still has to win in with whenever he's in an interaction with Obi-Wan. He has to win in some way. He has to have the leverage or the high ground, if you will. And I loved in this when he goes, Anakin has always felt himself an outsider set apart from his allies, destined to fall or triumph alone. Luke saw himself not as a hero or a martyr, but as one thread in the tapestry of life. He intuitively understood himself as an expression of the Force, drew his power from it, not in great drafts, but in small, careful sips, taking only as much strength as he needed for the task at hand. I was like, this is the difference between Anakin and Luke Skywalker. Luke takes what he needs when he needs it, and Anakin is just trying to win the day and take as much as possible. Credit on the Holo News, whatever, anything he can get. He wants to be the poster boy. He wants to be the hero. We'll get to Brotherhood. I cannot wait. We got to get past this one. No Contingency, Fran Wild.
Is the Mon Mothma one?
Mon Mothma, yeah.
Yep.
We get some Mon Mothma going rogue on a. I mean, there was real tension in this, like the whole time.
Nary a Bothan in sight.
I know, buddy. I'm sorry.
I
was looking for it. I was like, we're gonna get Bothans in this one for sure.
Yes, Grant will be happy one day.
Is that gonna be our next T-shirt? It's just gotta be like free the Bothans, like.
Give us Bothans.
Give us Bothans or give us
Andor season 2. I have a good feeling, guys.
Is that what they're keeping the Bothans?
He already said he was going to
prepare
aliens.
to be.
He was like, I'm going to add aliens. I was like, well, the first one. Let me tell you about these espionage clandestine Le Carré aliens. They're called the Bothans.
Yeah. Right? I mean, someone should be like, you want some untread territory, Tony? Like, Bothans, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, they're right there, like sitting there. Actually, this is exciting because if we can do all the Bothans, then the Bothans will be fantastic forever.
Oh, so
this was EX courier droids and stuff.
Yeah, the High Republic connection shoehorned in.
Yep.
But this is like from the Phase 2, the earliest High Republic writings we have, and how they used to like in real time just send courier droids through the galaxy, which is like bonkers to even think about.
Right.
And and so she used some of this old tech. It was a great use of it.
This has like an action beat for Mon Mothma too.
It does.
So I was like, cool, finally.
She takes out an Imperial probe droid by hand.
How big is this probe droid? Are these the smaller ones that like roll with
the Inquisitor? No,
Inferno Squadron, or is this like
these are like full size, man.
Yeah, she just like stabs it with like a helmet shard or something
in the eye. Okay, and I was like, well, I'm like, you're probably not even gonna blind it, and at worst, it might explode inside a pressurized cabin. Like,
right?
I don't know. There's it was. I was actually like, I'm like, I know she survives. And like this whole thing, I'm like, she is gonna die. Like even the way, like, 'cause she's fretting for most of the story. It's just like her fretting and being like, this is so wrong, and she's trying to talk herself into it, and it's just like all this lead up, and it creates all this tension. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and the stupid pilot droid, I'm like, oh, that thing is gonna get you killed. It was like horror for me.
And it did a good job, right? Because usually I'm very somewhat immune to that stuff where I'm like, this is a prequel. We know she gets out of this, right? But I was really swept up in it, right? I kept going, oh boy, this is tricky. How's she going to get out of this one? But the probe droid stuff, I mean, oh yeah, Ben, you were there. Like, just like, I didn't have much respect for those things until the Rise of the Resistance ride at Disney when like a full-size probe droid comes down and you're like, oh, that thing is terrifying.
Yeah, it's very big. It's very large.
Yeah.
I mean, the head is like, it's like 3 feet in diameter. It's terrifying.
It's got a lot of arms. Who knows what those arms do?
Nothing
it's all
good.
it's very upsetting. Yeah.
I love this was called No Contingency, and it was like the rebellion is about hope and luck and threading the needle and that single shot. It's like it's for me. I love that theme, and that sort of carries forward with a few of these stories. Like going to assault the Death Star 2 is like that scene is just a total suicide.
Yeah, it's all the chips in the center of the table. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they've come a long way from Rogue One, like version. I love there's a Luthen Rail name drop in here.
Rail.
She's like, what would Luthen think? I'm like, oh man, like can't you just say? I mean, so what would Luthen?
No, it has to leave it broad.
Gosh, I wish Luthen Rail wasn't sipping cocktails on a beach somewhere. Yeah, right.
Sure.
Yeah, it does not sound like he's
totally alive Luthen Rail. What would he do?
Yeah. He did not die
Yeah.
triumphantly. I'm gonna say he got a triumphant death, but
Oh man, love me
All
for.
right, let's move on. I think we got what 20 more to go here.
No, we got like 25
Okay,
more
all
to
right.
go. We're
We're
not
going
even at the
real
halfway
quick.
mark.
We'll go a little
This
faster
just
now because we've covered a lot.
we
got to
could
get to
we could talk a little more,
Brotherhood
or
to
is
say on
this part one of a 2-part episode? Anyway, we'll keep moving on.
that. All right, the burden of leadership. Danny Lore. This is a Lando tale.
Yeah,
Lando's cool.
Lando's cool.
Yeah, Lando's cool. No notes. Yeah, no, it was well written, but again, it was one of those things where it's just like, we get Lando.
Right, we couldn't get a
Nine
Nub chapter. We had to get a Lando chapter.
Oh,
we do. We get some 9
Not
Nub.
first person.
No, but not like a 9 Nub centric chapter.
We don't get a 9 Nub centric.
He's in a few of these, but he's always like the right hand man.
Bomar Monk and 9 Nub are missing.
Like, listen, Lando needs to get a chapter, but I think he's got 2 or 3. And I'm just saying, give one to 9 Nub. Like, you could even shoehorn him into some other chapter. You could give his backstory. Why is he in the Falcon? Like, what, how does he get there?
That's so weird. How that not, like, okay, we'll talk about it.
I'm glad you're
We get a lot of pilots and a lot of troopers coming up. Get ready to speed.
Those all blend together for me, so we can
get ready to speed round those.
Let's see how many we can speed round through.
Yeah, I could, and they're all well written. But I feel like we could knock some of those out to give a 9 Nub. I didn't know it was missing, and now I am upset.
Yeah, it's all right. But this is great. This really proves that Lando's a leader. Like whatever he does, he knows what to say, even at the sabacc table, even with Korimix, this Dracelian pilot who he's trying to get on with Gold Squadron. He's just a born leader, and so this is just a great chapter sort of highlighting
and
how
more so than Han, because like Han is mostly there for Leia and Luke and the connections he made, and this book really goes out to like Lando's just there because I guess he feels like it's the right thing to do, which is just an odd, interesting thing for that character, right? Of just like
he's always sort of floated on the wave of like where he's always making the best of a bad situation. He had a good thing going there, but he sort of organically fell into into the rebellion, and all these people followed him, and he's like, well, this is just the next thing I've got to do. Yeah, and he was great at it because he is a leader.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to the speeder chase, guys.
Speeder bike. Yeah.
Oh, this was a great story.
Gone to the Winner's Circle. Patricia A. Jackson loved this story.
I love this story too.
Absolutely loved this story. Rab Crap. Sokoran expat, #1 ranked professional racer on the Inner Rim.
Yeah, I love that.
Joined the Ghost Lancers elite company on the sanctuary moon of Endor. This is the scout trooper that bests Luke in the side-by-side sort of parallel the fight or a scuffle, and then
crash into a tree
at the front of his speeder bike off.
But I love that they are like, this guy's good. And like, it'll make the next time I watch Return, I'm going to look for this dude. Cause they do that's the whole fun part of that scene, right? Is how deft and adroit they are at piloting these things. Yeah. And I love how we got actual speeds, like between 400 and 450 kilometers per hour. That is fast. That's like really 120 miles per hour through like through a forest. That's insane.
Dense forest with non-force users being able to do this, which is wild.
That's like 240 miles per hour.
Yeah,
that's
really fast. Yeah, I think that's closer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like one of my favorite things is they explain in it why he doesn't go flying off when the thing starts spinning. Did you catch that?
Yes. It was like centrifugal force. Yeah, centripetal force.
And I'm like, and something else where I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of explains, because otherwise he should just go spinning off.
Oh, that's right.
Spinning around. But they do have like a little moment of just like, and this was happening, so that's why he didn't go spinning off. And I'm like, all right,
and like maybe science doesn't work that way, but for the sake of the story, science works that way. So
his boots aren't like hooked in under the pedals or
no. There's a whole there's like a full paragraph explaining why he doesn't go flying off, and I'm like, as a science nerd, I didn't even need that. Like, I'm like, it's fine.
All right, we got the Ewok Village next. These are 2 Ewok stories in a row. We have One Normal Day by Mary Kenny, and then Divine Intervention by Paul Crilly, I believe.
I mean, they're just beautiful stories. There's not much to say here. I mean, except it's a great POV of Wicket in the first one. And some really cool Logray sort of behind the scenes political maneuvering. And Logray's also he's force sensitive, right?
He's a self-assured shaman.
Yeah.
He sort of thinks this is all his doing, the coming of the Golden One,
right,
and all that stuff.
Right, and he has this sort of malevolent plan to retain power because there's some upjumped people that are, questioning, in a wartime what to do. But he gets a moment where he actually like sinks into the force. Like he definitely communes with the natural force and then the living force as well. And I thought that was really cool.
Was just so
There's
fun.
a couple little splatters of like force users around here that I didn't sort of expect to see, and this was one. It was great, and like they do worship the golden one, and
you find out about their god, and then the Golden One. Yeah, I thought C-3PO. If you watch Return of the Jedi, you almost feel like C-3PO is what they think is a god, but it turns out he's just almost like an effigy or connected to the god that they already believe in. So it's like it was cool to kind of steep in that. I thought that lore. It's with the shaman Logray.
Logray. So there was one. It's like one line. He's like, he was everything Logray had ever imagined. A figure glowing with inner glory. A god who radiated light from his eyes. A god who tripped on a tree root, falling face first into the undergrowth. Oh my! Someone help! I've fallen over. And he's just like, and then like shortly thereafter, Logray is like, you're not him. And I love that they did that, where it's like, listen, that yes, they believe in God, but they are definitely not stupid. And he was able to see that. But then like he did have that moment that flipped, and he's like, well, these people, this could be a sign from our actual deity. Like maybe there is something good here. And that maybe this is actually a sign from the real Golden One, and let's just let this play out. And that was super great.
Those two short stories back, and Wicket meeting Leia, like just that whole setup was just so good. All right, the buy-in.
Nora Wexley. Yeah. So this is another.
Loved this. Temin is back there on Akiva. She's thinking about him. This is all about a sort of a mother going to fight in the final battle, and sort of what that sort of conflict, of the mind and of the soul and of the heart, and tough stuff.
And this is the lost chapter of Chuck Wendig's Aftermath series. This is, we get Temin thinking about her, like Temin's POV at this time, and then now we see the flip side of it and sort of what she's going through.
Yeah.
And she gets.
Does Lando hit on Nora at one point?
Yeah. I mean, she's breathing.
Lando
right?
hits on every. Lando hits on everyone and everything, right? Like that's his. That's how he shows appreciation or affection or connection. Like I don't know, that's his love language is constantly.
This is where you get all the liquor drops in this short story. You get the calamari Zinfar, which is great to have pilots playing like cards, drinking before the war, the trench warfare, or the landing. Like it's just a.
I don't know why I love the pilot stuff so much, but I do. Like, it's just. I think it's from reading it's from reading Rebel or Rogue Squadron was like one of my first forays into reading the EU. That I think I just so imprinted on me.
I love that scene because Akbar is such a G. You know what I mean?
It's
he donated that bottle. Like, they like look over and he's like hanging out with like
Mon Mothma still doing work,
and he's like the only one looking over, and he's just like, "Yeah, I got you
guys. Like, you guys deserve this." Yeah, Lando pulls out a bottle of calamari Zinfar for the table, basking in the impressed whistles from Nora and Zerkatun. From the Admiral, he says, with a small nod across the atrium to where Akbar sits with Mon Mothma and General Madine. A tactical diagram visible on the table, their heads together in deep concert. He's just like, he knows what's up. That guy knows what's up. I didn't think I could love Akbar more, but that was like such a G move. I was like, way to go.
They talk about Clivian, which is that short for the calamari? Or is that another name for the calamari Zinfar? I took that as another drink altogether. It was kind of like, it was kind of like some moonshine or something that they had in like other.
No, the Clivian. So that comes from the Aftermath series. Hobby.
Hobby the droid, where they serve it out of.
Hobby was. I think he was. No, actually, no. It's not. It's from the. I'm sorry. He.
Mr. Bones, I think, from the Aftermath.
Mr.
No,
Bones.
I said Aftermath when I meant Alphabet Squadron, but it wasn't Alphabet Squadron. Hobby, it was from the certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back. Hobby was
Okay.
what's his name? Wedge Antilles, I think, co-pilot in the Snowspeeders.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And is a very big character in Rogue Squadron.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
that's
he,
right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
he was brewing this it's literally made from fuel. It's this drink, and it's not, it's hooch, just made there, and yeah.
They passed that around too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're drinking everything that night. It's a great.
And then they're drinking Carillion Rishkate?
Sure.
Rishkate?
Yeah, I mean, this is the big fight, right? It's everyone's emptying their stores. It was beautifully written. It was so fun to read.
It was.
And that drink
is that
about celebrating life, and they're going to their
Yeah.
deaths. I was like, that's super poetic. I was like, oh,
yeah. It felt very true of people going into war knowing that this is the final
It's a big
battle,
one.
and even we come out victorious, most of us aren't coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next story, the man who captured Luke Skywalker, we get a super light meditation on a parable of the Force as religion.
This is Commander Alderaan Igor, and he takes the lightsaber from Luke and walks with him, to Vader, and you sort of get this conversation with about the Jedi, basically his view of the Jedi. Do you have this outline, Adam? Because
I have 2 quotes. I have his quote,
yes,
which I think is funny. So the Jedi way is madness. If the Force wants you to kill a chancellor, you kill a chancellor. If it wants you to hurt a child, you hurt a child. If it wants you to die, you die. It is destiny as a devouring mouth. We need a new world, clear and orderly and free, shaped by words and deeds and will and choice, not destiny and ancient magic. That is the galaxy we have built.
Yeah. Compelling.
So if you want to know what people think about
it is compelling, right?
Yeah. At this time in the galaxy,
But
this is what people think. This is what some people think of the Jedi.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes sense.
It's logical
from their point of view.
It makes sense. And that, I just thought that was actually probably the best Empire argument I've heard so far.
Right. And it's from someone who served in the Clone Wars and was led in battle by a Jedi who he saw did not have much military experience and shouldn't have led them on this quote unquote suicide mission. But then Luke has the perfect response, which is just, you talk as if the galaxy is made of separate things, as if nothing binds you and me, this tree, that rock, or your empire and the republic from which it grew, your empire and Vader and the Jedi. The will of the Force is the power of choice. All choices, the choices of the living and the dead. Back on Celis 4, you say no soldier would have ever served whoever served beside would have led that charge. You should have died there, but you did not. What is that if not destiny? Right? I just love that response. Yeah, such a Luke
he couldn't let it go. Luke was quiet for a minute, and then he had to bust that out.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Really good. Then we have, it's a trap.
Oh, you know what? I couldn't read this because my Kindle just it was illegible.
Oh,
was it fun?
I've got that. It was great.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Weirdly, my audiobook did still read this out loud to me, even though if I started to look at the picture, it would freak out.
Oh, really?
And break my Kindle. So I just had to listen to it and then go back and look at the pictures. It was very strange, but it seemed good.
Yeah, it was short. It was fun. It was a lot of the same lines from the film, but then he just talks about how all of these people are under him. He has to do his best to sort of keep them alive and struggle with leadership. Yeah, it's good
Way
stuff.
To the world.
Great art. The Impossible Flight of Ash Angels, Marike Nijkamp. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but
this is about Arvel Krynid.
Arvel Krynard, yeah. Krynard,
yeah.
Krynard. This was a good one. This is another one where just the pilot pieces that are coming up, they all blend together because I read a bunch of in a row. But this is the A-Wing.
The A-Wing pilot. And falls in love, and it was just this. It's again kind of film noir-y, sort of love brought me back, and I didn't want any of this, but now here we are, and I got to do it for
Yeah. That's nice. It's it gives a little backstory to it's if you're curious from the movie, it's the pilot that drives directly into the the bridge, right, of the executioner.
That's the pilot. Yeah,
the
right.
Piet. Yeah, the Piet stuff.
Yeah. That takes out Piet. Yeah.
Then we have Ending Protocol by Hannah Witten.
This is Riz.
Yep.
Riz.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
this was a great short too. I just love when you're highlighting troopers and you're highlighting the Empire and sort of just the nameless soldiers in there. It's fun.
She was another character that I felt was force sensitive as well. There was a couple times where she had sort of visions of what was going on and had certain calls that drove her. Though she had a pretty ignominious end, like she just sort of got gunned down by a couple of interceptors, right?
No. Wait. No. Isn't she the one who sacrificed herself, or not sacrificed, who turned herself into Leia?
Yeah, Risen Leia. Yeah.
Yeah, who is down on is on Endor patrolling.
Oh, Riz. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
See,
Okay.
there's so many of these, and that's the thing. We're in this part of the book where these are really well written, but we're jumping through like all these like nameless soldiers and frontline people, so it's hard to.
Yes, but also I think she is also force sensitive. There's a couple times where she definitely has those moments, and it's like when she takes her helmet off, she's like alive again, and it's like there was something about like when she looked at Leia, like that she just reacted and did all those things, and that was fun. It was like nice to see like someone who's just
also starts the trend of like forgiveness and troopers sort of turning at the last minute here as the Death Star is about to explode and does explode. You sort of see a lot of Imperials being like, oh, I can just leave all this behind. You see this at Jabba's palace too. I can just leave all this treachery and underworld behind.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
And I like it. There's a couple of moments in this is nice. I mean, the way they connect it is this is one of the stormtroopers that's there when Han is trying to hotwire the doors into the bunker. And she actually accidentally, and this might be where you think she might be force sensitive or will the force. She accidentally kicks the leg of the stormtrooper who shoots and only ends up hitting Leia's shoulder. Like she actually ends up doing that accidentally.
Like it was like a spur of the moment
action
she just made. She's like, I don't know why I did it, but I did that. Like I think that she was conscious, but she played it off like it was accidental, but it like wasn't.
Right. Yeah. And then I like the fact that at the end, when she turns herself into Leia, it's not this like kumbaya moment of just like, oh, all's forgiven. Like she's like, I could like see that she didn't forgive me, but there may still be a place for me here, right? Like it's that reconciliation after war that's really fascinating.
She's like, I've been here for a couple. Like she didn't shy away from anything, but she wasn't defiant about it. She's like, this is the way it is, and that was fun. What do we have next?
The Last Flight. By Ali Hazelwood. This was another Red Squadron chapter. Yeah. This was Sela Cott, I think her name was.
Oh, yeah. So this is the one that ended up getting gunned down by a couple interceptors. Like she kind of.
Yeah. This is tough.
Yeah. But it was great.
No, it was great. There's a lot of other more deep lore in there. Fun stuff. But for the sake of time, we'll just keep moving on here. 20 and Out by Lamar Giles.
Oh man,
this was the super laser operators with the funky helmets.
Oh my! So very tongue-in-cheek gag here. But a lot of people mentioned. She's like, I got this crazy idea to make $1 million. Safety handrails.
But like so. But it does this thing where it makes the joke of it, right? Where I'm like, like I'm literally driving going, cute. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Funny. We all know that joke. But then they do an in-world explanation that's like so true of wartime societies where he's just like, no, but listen, we're in war right now, so we're not thinking about this. But when war ends, these are the things that we start thinking about, which I'm like, that's true of society. Like it's so weird. Like his if the Empire had been successful, his crazy plan probably would have made him a multi-billionaire. But it was just
It was funny that someone almost fell off a catwalk. Also, like just because of some. That was kind of great.
Yeah. No, that's fun. It's fun too of them just thinking, of course, this is just another drill, right? Of just, I love when they talk about the size of the Death Star, of just talking about hemispheres. Like I'm on this hemisphere. Like I will never see any of these people. I will never see. Like I'm not going to be invited to this thing, and just it's well done. Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have the Ballad of Nanta, another Ewok story by Sarah Kuhn.
Oh my!
She wrote the Dr. Aphra audio.
Yeah, heartrending, but still beautiful.
very beautiful. But like so of course this is the thing that I cried at when I was a child and watched. Like, not Malakili, which I thought was sad on like, but that's it. Malakili gets sadder as I get older.
Yeah.
Like that story. This is the one that as a kid where I just like, I would cry at this. I would cry at like in Son of Kong when King Kong died, like and is orphaned. Like I would cry at these things. Literally, they just heartbreak me as a child. And then to be like a 40-something-year-old driving, listening to this and going, oh no,
you don't want
this
to hear
is the
a dirge
one that
dedicated to Nanta.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's really beautifully written, but it's just so
it's touching, and it really deepens the sort of lore of the Ewoks. I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, Ben.
Yeah, take it away.
Then Fall Sidious by Olivia Blake.
I mean,
where do we begin?
I was like, how do I even? So, I mean, can we start with what this even is? Like, so this is the 10 seconds of him electrifying Luke Skywalker, but having like a mental conversation at Vader. Like Vader probably can't hear him, but this is him just like pure feeding his hate and being like, and just like the best like F-U I've ever heard in my, just like he's dancing on all their graves. I just, it comes out like a sonnet. Like it's this beautiful poem of hate and vitriol that goes through like 10 chapters and like like 10 seconds. And 4 was like, and I'm going to make you carry his body out of here. Like that was the whole one.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. This is crazy.
I mean, I'm all right. I've got, one.
Instead of doing excerpts, I just want to talk about some of the themes.
Okay, see that
in order. This might be
that's what I
easier
mean.
than
Like
just reading.
excerpts.
You can just listen to the audiobook.
The whole thing is a quote.
You
can quote the whole
he
thing.
First gets into like the great lie and the deception of how everything has basically been, the myth of Anakin Skywalker has basically been a great lie and deception that he's devised. He talks about love. We can talk about that, but we can read that excerpt. But it's what you think Palpatine thinks about love.
Yeah.
Talks about prophecy and
a
the
lot
lie
about.
of a prophecy.
Oh yes.
The fault.
And I mean that is the most heartbreaking to me of all. Like
it's crazy.
It is
like
savage.
I almost don't want to talk about it because people should read this. It's insane. It's like so beautifully written. I really do think Olivia Blake crushed this story. Talks about their relationship being a symbiotic relationship. Like that theme sort of really gets expounded upon. He then talks about the Jedi and the Jedi's, how they've got it right on attachment, because he basically shares the same idea of love and attachment as they do, and he's like, oh, they got that right. But again, this is almost like after I read this entire thing, I was like, I just saw Luke from The Last Jedi being like, everything you just said was wrong. In my mind, I was like, it's like everything Palpatine is alluding to.
He's wrong, but it's awesome.
But it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Anakin being born a slave, and he's always been a slave. Oh, just like
dunking,
it's so
like to
brutal.
your last days, like this is all you've ever. Oh, I mean, I can't even do it justice. It's such beautiful prose.
It's so good, yeah. And then he talks about like he alludes to another chosen one. Like if time goes on, there might be another chosen one. He talks about just how Vader's been lost this entire time as a theme. Like he's just totally been lost. And then when you really think about it, like I think on the 7th second, he talks about how he's been holding Vader back this entire time. Anakin was complaining about how the Jedi were holding him back. It was Palpatine was really holding him back like this entire time, like never allowing him ever to feel, the great powers of the ancient Sith Lords. Right? Yeah. He was never going to show him the dark side in that way.
Yeah. Ever.
This. Yeah. So, all of this was delivered in Sam Witwer doing Palpatine, which is he does a really good Palpatine
clip or something.
But I'm going to go to sleep listening to it if you can get it.
Wake up.
It's really good.
Fingers in the air.
But like he's so good at it. But part of me is like listening to this, going like, because it goes on forever, and I'm like, how many glasses of water? Like, how many takes was this? Because like I can only imagine like Palpatine doing Palpatine for more than 10 seconds has to.
Adam, I would read a second and I would take a breath and sort of like meditate on it. And then read the next one. Like I took my time with this short story. Yeah. I hope he doesn't just barrel into each one.
No, it is Palpatine taking joy in everything he's saying. Like it's the
he's taking a victory lap, dancing on his
fully operational. Very just like his machinations, or just enjoying his machinations. It's really
He talks
quite
about
wonderful.
the fear-based, tactics to manipulate free governments and democracy, and basically using fear to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
parallels.
Yeah. There's definitely parallels, but it's also just like this can happen at any time in history. Basically, anyone can use fear, to basically cause what look like stable systems or feel like stable systems to completely unravel. He talks about that. There's one line that I'll just pull out because it's short. He goes, he talks about his rise and sort of, my fate was never written in the stars. Stars die, and so do saints, and so do cowards.
Right.
But I am hunger. I am wrath. And by my own hand, I am divine.
Was that the beginning of it? Yeah. Was it the start?
It's close, right? It feels
because he hits that note in the beginning. That's how he starts. It's just like, because he keeps going back that motif of I am a Jedi like my father before me, or the chosen and the chosen one. That's the motif. But he talks about the chosen one, and he's like, I wasn't chosen. I made this.
Yeah, I made.
He has a very again. There are parallels to a self-made man narrative.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure he didn't get a small $1 million loan from his father, but whatever.
Arnold's been doing the rounds lately, Schwarzenegger, and just Google Arnold self-made man, and that will explain everything you need to know. He's just like, because he's like, I am absolutely not a self-made man.
That's not a thing
that happens. There's other little nuggets in here that I love that refer to some other things. When this relays back to the Charles Soule run of the Darth Vader comic, he goes, the brutality of this does not delight me. Despite the meritless qualms of the Jedi, the dark side is not a simple matter of carnality or lust for blood. If I wanted nothing but destruction, I could call it forth at any moment. Like it's about rule. So he's like justifying what he's doing a little bit. But I mean, I just think that's a really interesting point.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
he's not just.
We're not out to destroy everything, and he has to call Vader to heel in that comic run, to be like, listen, I need something left to rule here. You just can't kill everybody.
Exactly. We're here to rule. Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, power is not violence, even if it requires violence. An empire demands stability. This is what the Jedi, with their foolhardy promises of justice and morality, could never have successfully delivered.
It's close, right? It's close to the truth.
Stability. He thinks stability is power, which is really fun idea, a really interesting idea. What else? He starts to think, I told you once that all who gain power are afraid to lose it, alluding to the prequels. Yes. But I lied because the thing is, in my chest isn't fear, it's faith. I was like, whoa, he's just a zealot, over his own cause.
This is the thing, is he just loves him some him.
Yes.
He just is so proud of himself. Like, I mean, can I do one? I'm sorry. The power of the dark side is like holding lightning in a bottle, like trapping the galaxy between my hands, as I have always done. I am a vessel of stellar fusion, of unlocked secrets of the Force that I've shared with you and kept from you. You cannot yet imagine the mastery I hold, the power that will only be yours when I allow it, when I condone it, which perhaps you are beginning to realize will be a day that does not come. And it's like, but he's just I mean, he's just like farting in a glass and being like, yes.
This is the one person monologue.
The thing that I always joke about with Palpatine that we talk about is like it's all going according to my plan. Like, it's always an excuse. But like, I joke about that, but Palpatine believes that as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, even though it's not, everything is according to his plan because he's so high in his own supply. Yeah. It's amazing.
And when he senses Vader coming back around to the light, so there is goodness in you. My hearty congratulations. It will not save you.
Yes, my hearty congratulations. I love that. I laughed out loud when I heard that line.
Yeah. I mean,
good for you.
This is one I'm going to reread and reread and reread. I didn't have time today because I was cramming.
I'll make a poster of this one, put it on my wall or something. It's just so
I know.
Good.
I was like, can this be a back piece? Can I just like tattoo this whole like thing on my back?
In Uramesh. Oh my god. It's that good. It's really Olivia Blake. Shout out. This is actually just the best, I think, from a certain point. I think she won, honestly.
Yeah, she might have won. It's not a competition. They're all fantastic, but she won.
What's interesting is I feel like in most of these books in the last two, we got the person who did the Shakespeare Star Wars before, which I can't remember his name, which are really great. If you've actually gotten the Shakespearean versions of all 9 books, are really, like, as a Shakespeare nerd, that guy's amazing because it reads like a Shakespeare and actually hits all the things. But he did a couple for these last two that often center around Palpatine. And he's not present in this book. I don't know why. I don't know, for whatever reason, probably writing other stuff and wasn't available. But like, it freed up a straight on Palpatine story that wasn't written like a Shakespearean play, right? And so I appreciated that because I felt like it's the most time we've gotten with Palpatine ever, really.
Yeah, it's a lot.
What would they say of you, Anakin, when you are dust and gone?
Yeah.
What is legacy? I am the one who will decide. I was like, this got me thinking about Vader's legacy and just how
it's dark.
How he didn't really get. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. But again, the Brotherhood, I think, solves that for me. It really was cathartic to read that short story, and we'll get to that.
Well, the whole point is it's like from a certain point of view, right? Like if all you ever heard about Vader was told through like Palpatine's point of view, you'd be like, what a pathetic wretch, Anakin is. But it's like, that's not the case, and I mean, just lovely. This is one I really got sort of like John Hamm circa Mad Men, like early Mad Men seasons vibes, like where it's just sort of maniacal and terrible, but he believes it to be the truth, and it just sort of like comes through. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's definitely some. Also, I mean, like it just feels like high level thinking and a lot of conviction, but obviously, again, when I finished the chapter, I was like, this is his point of view, and I just saw Luke saying, everything you just said was wrong. Like it just, because again, he gets thrown on the shaft. Like that's what do we know happens? It's like it's
right.
Yeah, this is.
I also appreciated because I was waiting for the episode 9 connection, right? Of just like, and now I'm going to transport myself into my clone body. I'm like, we don't need it. Not that I'm like, I don't hate that happened, but like, I'm just glad they just like, no, this is just about Vader, right? Just about.
This is
like,
about pushing Vader to the edge, right? Being like, I'm gonna now kill your son, your offspring from you, and sort of like, what are you gonna do about it? Like there's a line in here where it's like, it is not good or evil, light or darkness that made you and unmade you. It is love and it is grief. And I was like, just
all right.
Impact. Sean Williams. I don't have many notes on this one. I don't have many notes for a while. Actually,
I don't remember this one. I know it's the guy who.
Oh, this is the one about Joff, about Kasfa Joff.
Yes, Joff.
Yeah, the guy who lets the.
Yeah, so this was an interesting duology because they both had atypical structures. This one goes back in time. It's sort of like it's like the moment of impact. 12 seconds before impact, 2 minutes before impact, and then like his like backstory, and then for Alderaan, and so it really says that this character Kasfa Joff sabotaged the Executor so that it brought all external functions to one central point in that hub that was vulnerable, so that A-Wing could actually take down the Super Star Destroyer. Which is a little bit of like a retcon, which I kind of roll my eyes at. But...
I don't love it, to be honest, but it's fine. Like, I don't know if we need not everything has to be something sometimes, right? No. Like, but it was well written. Again, like
these are all,
and he's literally a nerf herder.
He literally
on Alderaan. Yeah.
I do want to not to move on quickly, but to move on quickly, I do want to talk about Trooper Trouble.
Oh yeah, couldn't do it.
So first of all, this is another guest appearance by a somewhat famous actor. This is read by Adam Scott, from Parks and Rec, and from Severance.
Okay,
and who I love, and hear him as like writing in the journal.
I want to hear
the perfect person for this. It's really well read, and just the calf. Just the ongoing.
Just give me a cup of coffee.
When are you gonna fix? Just fix the calf machine. Yeah.
This is definitely the funniest one to me. Easily.
Yeah.
And just the ongoing like battles with that R2 unit that is like the worst.
Yes.
And Yeah, I just and again, so I guess it's a trilogy now. It's sort of it's written in log entries,
Yes.
and the
Yep.
cadence is so funny, and it's like slapsticky, and but like could still be canon. Like this is one that
Yeah. There's
it
nothing
pushed it to the
breaks
edge,
it,
but I'm
right?
like,
Yeah.
no, I could see a stormtrooper collapsing from dehydration or low blood sugar in formation for 4 hours, like that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, and there's talk about union, but they can't say the word union, so they use the word ugnaught, the U word.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's funny. It's a little world bendy, but again, the idea that you have a giant bureaucracy, like weirdly, like the Mandalorian episode this season with what's his name, Blurg's Day, is very much like in this vein of just like there is this giant bureaucracy. Every time you have these giant things that you're gonna have, like the calf machine will never get repaired. I've literally been trying to get my name on my mailbox. This is me talking, Adam talking, for the past 4 months.
and
To the point where I have now written it on a little tiny thing and post-it noted there so I can get things delivered to my mailbox. Bureaucracies suck, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anyway,
that shouldn't be that hard.
Really shouldn't.
To the last by Dana Schwartz.
Nice. So
incredible Twitter follow.
Yeah, Jenny loves Dana Schwartz. I guess she's written some
or X, I should say, not Twitter.
Yeah.
No, you should say Twitter. You should say Twitter.
Just hate X so much.
I'm not. That's not a thing. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I refuse to do that.
No, she's excellent. She does historical fiction, I believe, historical stories. Has a podcast. Has all this other stuff. And yeah, Jenny was like, "Oh, Dana Schwartz wrote a thing," so I told her about it. This is great. This is the cool. Admiral Piet.
This is one of the best ones. I love this. I love the Piet story. She crushed in terms of just isolating Piet as a character.
Mm-hmm. Really
all the way
captured the PTSD of only getting your position because your boss was killed on duty in front of you.
Just kept coming back to that scene and just be like, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it.
Yeah, which makes so much sense. You're like, yeah, of course that would be the thing. Like waking up gasping for breath and clutching at your own throat. I'm like, yep, that sounds about right.
It literally is PTSD, right? It's the idea of intrusive thoughts, right? Like it just is there. Yeah.
Would Vader be proud of me or whatever he says? And then talks about the backstory on Axela. Lots of great stuff in there. The Emperor's Red Guards, Gloria Chow.
Yeah, I love this one. I mean, so they're some of my favorite characters of the Imperial Guards. I've just loved the design and what they're doing. And so I mean the confusion. They're just like, are they like, do we fight each other? Like, what do we do? I mean, it gives.
This has another moment that's not in the movie, but just feels organic to the movie, which is the "Leave us" line from Vader. A sort of.
I love that.
It's so cool. Yeah, I love that.
When they go back through and they're still right there, even though like they'd been excused, and they, it's like, how do they get past? And then these Imperial Guards are like, what do we do? And then you have like the zealot, and then you have the sort of like thoughtful one. And the thoughtful one is the guy that we have his POV, and Luke ends up saving his life.
Right. Yeah, everyone basically run. Basically, this is the whole thing. Yeah. It's funny because when I first started reading this, or it being read to me, I really like pushed back on it. Of just like I don't want a story from their perspective because I like the fact that there's like these silent. Whatever, and then it just really won me over. Like it really did a good job of just. I was so on board.
I kind of love that juxtaposition, hearing about them because like whenever you see them, they're so stoic, and there's nothing there. And so when they actually because the action figure they have a pistol under there and along with the baton under their robes, from video games and whatnot, they're actually the elite of the elite, and Lords of the Sith. There's a lot of them in there, and just, seeing them
sparring. All the time.
It's like the most unwieldy like battle dress you could ever have. You can't move your head. It's like I don't understand how you do anything. So I like that juxtaposition. And I'm not familiar with the Legends thing about their fight to the death. I don't know if this is the first appearance, but I'm guessing it's not. Probably somewhere they wrote about these guys having to have a fight to the death in order to get into the Imperial Guard.
Sure. Yeah, there's an academy or whatever.
I also had this little like thought when I was after I read the Leave Us thing, and like from these guys' point of view, like technically, Luke Skywalker was a Sith for like 5 minutes. Like, I mean, they, I don't know. I guess,
from their perspective, you mean?
well, I don't know. Just like kind of like they brought in a usurper and they killed the lead Sith, and like Vader was the sort of one Sith and had his. I don't know. I'm just technically because the top Sith was.
Are you saying
toppled
Vader was the head of the Empire for like
5 minutes, and he was the leader of the Sith and the duology. Like the rule of two was Vader and Luke for 5 minutes, and even though they weren't dark side, they're both light side at that point.
Lucas,
I won't argue that.
No, but Luke aside, like by the transitive property of the Sith, yes, like Darth Vader was head Sith at
it's
that
like
moment. He killed
Dark
his master.
Saber transitive property, like rules, like technically, he was like one of the Sith.
They should have been serving him. Yeah.
In some book somewhere in Exegol, they're like, oh, I guess it was just Vader and Luke, but like, because they both fought or toppled the leader of the Sith.
We'll get to it in Brotherhood, but then I'm like, so he's like top Sith, but also like light side. So we're like the brother and the sister like tug of warring him when he died. He'd be like, no, he's mine. No, he's mine.
I think
you're basically describing that episode, but
yeah. I mean, they're fully light side at that point, as we find out later. But they both are. But I don't know. I'm just saying.
We gotta start speed rounding this. Wolf Trap, Alyssa Wong. This is she is currently writing the Afro series that we are loving, and we're going to review, I think, in the coming weeks. She is fantastic. This is the Hoyal chapter where he runs away into the woods at the end
by sawing off his own finger.
By letting the wolf bite his arm off, or
no, he cuts off his own. Okay. He cuts off his own finger to get out of it, which I really enjoyed. I really liked that. Like, again, it was really good storytelling. You can see why Alyssa Wong is like a mainstay in writing Star Wars stories, because just the backstory of him watching an animal chew off its own leg to get out of a trap, right? That's and not being able to understand that, right? And the horrified by it. But then also at the end of it, watching this I think it was like a wolf of some kind, run away on 3 legs just as well as it could on 4 legs, just getting out of that trap, and him just realizing, just chops his finger off, which again is like horrific to think about, but is a moment of like triumph for this character, just being able to get out of there while all the rest are going to be eaten by Ewoks.
Yeah, the murder bears are incoming.
Murder bears also really made me. Ben walked away for a second, but really made me want to replay the Battlefront
I
Ewok.
To play that one.
It's so much fun. They'll have to bring that back. We'll have to ask Ben if they're going to bring that back or not. I really just want to play that scene again. That was so much fun. The Ewok hunting
cool.
thing.
I didn't get to play it, but it did look.
Yeah.
And I love Ewoks as scary little murder bears. So anytime it's happening, I'm there for it. Extra 5% by MK England. Did you?
What is it? I
read it. I kind of read that one. I might have blended with all the other Starfighter ones. I think this is Yellow Squadron and.
Right. It's another pilot. Which again, enjoyed all of these when it was going on, but don't remember it.
Yeah, I got lost
at all
towards the end of this stuff.
I know I read it.
Yeah, well, that's fine. We can keep going. We got to get through anyways. Are we When Fire Marked the Sky, or are we Chronic? I think we're When Fire Marked the Sky.
Yeah, we got our wedge.
Miko Kandan. Yeah, this was awesome.
Yep, always give me a wedge.
I remember this one just because it had Shara Bay and Wedge Antilles and Zirka Toon and all the cool pilots. But again, it just there's a lot of pilot stories that I kind of mix together.
Here's the thing, we could talk about it. It's really well written. Yeah. If you want Wedge, just go read the Rogue Squadron is still, to me, can still be canon. The books are great. If you want your Wedge, I love me a pudgy hero. I identify with Wedge. I just always think about that character he is. There are characters where the Force is clearly working through them, like a Han Solo.
Sure.
And then there's just your Wedge, who the whole story is about him fighting this moniker of just being like the luckiest man alive, like throughout the story, and eventually just accepting it, right? Which is kind of this beautiful thing. It's like, yeah, I am pretty lucky.
Yeah, good
when
things
you get to the
happen
bottom
around
of it.
Wedge.
You make your own
yeah.
luck.
And he's just all around good guy.
Yeah.
The Chronicler by Danielle Page. Rebellion historian Dora Maar gets to interview our ensemble, which is really fun. There's a really great line in here too, where she, I think, compares all Han, Lando, and Luke at one point or something, and it's
yeah. My takeaway from this, what I really like is, and really worth reading. I love this idea that the rebellion survives through storytellers. That the idea is that there are these people who have to chronicle the rebellion. If they don't survive, or even if they do make it through, like their stories have to continue.
Yeah.
And like that they make important moments for this. Like Mom Mothma actually takes time off to talk to these people. But there's a moment, her story is so beautiful about idolizing Leia and trying to deal with this.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where Leia starts telling her story all the way back at the beginning of the book of being captured at Jabba's and Ula, and tells the story of Ula and others. And I just love that, like, Ula is enshrined in the history of the rebellion, and the whole thing about this story is like, you didn't have to join the Rebel Alliance to be a rebel,
sure.
right? To have a matter in the universe. I just love that. I thought it was really beautifully.
Yeah, you just got to rebel against authoritarianism and fascism of any kind, and that's a rebel at that point.
Even if it's just standing up against a slug. Yeah,
she's like, if Han was the sun and Luke a calm but confusing moon, then Lando was a magnetic field. And I thought that was just a wonderful summation of all three of those members of the ensemble.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then the Leia stuff is
all right. So this is the one,
the veteran,
by
Adam
I forgot about
Garcia. This is the Dexter Jetster story.
Dexter Jetster. We get Dexter Jetster.
He might be 400 years old. What's the math, Adam? Did you just from?
I think that's about right. I didn't do the math, but he's got to be. Yeah. He's got to be up there.
He's seen a lot of wars. He's seen a lot of different, regimes come into power, and he kind of doesn't believe one will stay for long. Things will always.
He's very cynical.
Yeah.
When we see him at this point. Yeah, and the thing about this is, like, we get a lot of in the sequel trilogy, a lot of people blaming themselves for the end of the Republic. Dexter Jetster. Dex puts himself squarely at the center for just identifying Kamino saber darts.
Yeah,
he feels such regret about
found the
planet. Yeah. I just think that's so interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then he's also when they talk, I think this starts when the Death Star blows up, and so he's basically like, oh, I've seen Starlight Beacon, explode too. So like I've seen a space station of giant size sort of get destroyed before. This isn't new to me. And I was like, this is so interesting. I just love that angle on Dexter. The riot, all that sort of stuff. Them the stormtroopers being these like kids. That was messed up. Yeah. It was really amazing stuff. It's just
find some hope.
Kinda like veteran wars hell.
Yeah. We hear his sad story of losing the diner after
the waitress. He basically his waitress bot dies, and 3 years after he loses the diner. Now he's living in like the lower levels of Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sad,
but it has a hopeful ending.
Yeah, it's got a good ending. Brotherhood.
Then,
I think we're here. Are we?
Yeah. All right. Ready to make this a 4-hour pod?
Okay. All the feels, guys. All the feels.
All the feels. So this is
all the feels and all the answers.
A lot of answers.
Get your tissue.
Yeah.
So
we finally get, this is Anakin's story as he, passes away, and where he goes immediately after. I mean, because he's flying solo here. He was never taught how to become a Force ghost. Just sort of does it instinctively. This is that great story that it pops up every once in a while about the younger Anakin in the stories from Shmi of him being her little sun dragon and having the sun dragon heart.
Yeah.
That came up a lot in was it Master and Apprentice? It's the Obi-Wan and Anakin book. They talk a lot about the sun dragon heart. There.
But first mentioned in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, right?
Yes.
That's where it was first came from, which was like huge. Like that Revenge of the Sith is like, if you're gonna read any novelization of any of the movies, read the Revenge of the Sith novelization. It does a good job of retextualizing a lot of things.
Yeah, that Sun Dragon myth, that hits hard, especially when he's dying, and it's sort of like you understand that willpower he's always had has been that fire that's been inside him that his mother's kind of stoked from the beginning, and because he was born in such dire circumstances, and he had to fight against it, and fighting against the ocean of the Force is like constantly talked about.
I love the perspective he gets on his own life in this moment. Because it's like, and it makes so much sense. It's just like he didn't really realize he was this like leaf being pushed and pulled by the will of the Force, and he probably he didn't realize how much of a presence in his life it was until he was like beyond it. And at first he fought against it, and then he just sort of like relaxed, and then like actually found peace. And it was just lovely.
But just
when he finally achieves that calm, that's really amazing.
And the quiet, right? In that space, the currents calmed, and Anakin Skywalker simply existed, a gradual acceptance of so many surprising things, a warmth without temperature, an embrace without touch, a belonging despite isolation, a quiet that revealed that quiet. It was like, so, and that makes, like, to me...
Wait, you got to finish that, though. You got to go to that next part where he's like, the quiet. How long had it been since Anakin found quiet? Even beyond the Force, mechanical thrums had surrounded him for years upon years, a droning repetition that often was his sole companion, and now nothing. Like, he's been hearing that heartbeat and that breathing forever.
I would just be like, I'm done.
Of his life support
I would have pulled myself off life support just because of the noise. Like, that would have driven me crazy.
How annoying would it be? Like, I don't want either. I don't want to be ableist in any way, but it's just like, just to hear so much, different beeps and sounds coming from your armor and your life support systems all day, and your breathing is even audible in a very loud way. That's haunting. It's truly haunting, and you really.
That's probably why I spent so much time in that Bacta tank. It's just like sensory deprivation. That's the only place you could meditate, right? Like we learned that from the comics. Is just like he needs to be floating in silence.
Ben gets Vader.
No, it's true.
I love it.
But the thing is, then we get the most beautiful moment of just this catharsis discussion between Obi-Wan and Anakin, like brothers being able to finally. And I got to read the quote of just like when Anakin is just like, I've done so many horrible things, right? Like I've done all of these things, and just Obi-Wan's thing is like, I mean, as a person who talks about people who've done horrible things in their lives, I truly believe in what Obi-Wan's saying here, which is like, Anakin, one person alone cannot burn down a galaxy or a republic. One person may pull a string. One person may light a spark. However, all the pieces don't move into place by themselves. Years upon years compound. One bad choice followed by a good choice followed by a well-intentioned mistake. The will of a galaxy, of a people, is different from the will of the Force. Their intention, their actions, and those that preyed upon them, it is a collective, not preordained, and not the mark of an individual. You do not bear the guilt of the galaxy only for your own choices. And then I love, Anakin says back, I made those choices to kneel to the dark side, to storm the temple, to fight you. And Obi-Wan just says, you did, and those belong to you. I love that moment of just like, yes, it's not this like, you don't need to feel guilty, you shouldn't feel guilty that, you didn't do bad things, but just focus on the bad things you did, not everything else. Yeah. You were surrounded by all these other things, but you owned those choices, but those are just choices, not the destruction of the galaxy isn't all on your shoulders. Right? Yeah. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a really beautiful moment to see the two.
This was his final lesson in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He literally said that. He was like, "This is your last lesson."
I also love that he keeps talking, and like he keeps talking like, Anakin, I have asked you many times to be patient and listen. I love that even as Force Ghost, Obi-Wan still is just like, can you just be patient and listen?
Yeah, but it was really fun to see them sort of click back into their old brotherly ways. And then for me, I mean, I think we talked before this thing. We were all like, "Yep, cried my eyes out at Brotherhood."
Literally. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like he witnesses Luke, viewing the pyre of his body in the Darth Vader suit, but like, he's not, I'm not even going to read it because I'm going to cry on air, and there's no need for that. But it essentially, it's like he's overcome with emotion that like he's looking past all that terrible stuff he did and just mourning his father. And it the way it's written hits hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in a way that I don't know that I really appreciated watching the movie.
No. Yeah.
But it's there, it's right there. But like, because you don't see Anakin watching it, but I mean, it's a very, very powerful part of the movie. I mean, as he's at the pyre. But wild.
Yeah,
wild.
I love when he's like, I did so much wrong and I want to go, right these wrongs. And Obi-Wan's like, you want to be like, there's no Hollow News and you're not gonna be the poster boy here. Like, you don't have to be the hero. Like, I loved that stuff. Like, it just Obi-Wan calming Anakin from trying to make a difference.
Though I think that does sort of forecast some stuff with Ahsoka. I do think that we're gonna get more bits and pieces now that Hayden's game and everyone loves him, or it's been revealed that everyone loves him. And I think they're like, okay, well, we can do some stuff with Force Ghost Anakin, and obviously we're gonna see it. Or I hope we see it, and it's been sort of teased that we're going to see it in Ahsoka season 2.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to will into existence. I hope it's going to happen. But so I think he still wants to do some good in Apotheosis.
I think so. And they try to once again answer the balance question here.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you get a direct quote of Obi-Wan saying you chose to bring balance, right?
Yeah. He's like, you did it, Anakin. He's like, it took your whole life. And this whole journey, he's like,
you fulfilled the prophecy.
Yeah, you destroyed the Sith and you brought balance.
He's like, I did so much wrong, but then he's like, well, look at this. Look what you did here. What the Pyre and the Emperor and his choice to choose his son over the Emperor. Like, that was just super powerful stuff. I also love that it has that sort of like counter to the sort of like, you left me and all this kind of just hateful things that Anakin said to Obi-Wan, where he says, I was taken from you. I was taken from the galaxy, from the Jedi. He was like Sidious, basically, insidiously designed his fate. And I just kind of loved that. It felt cathartic. There's so many cathartic beats in this.
Yeah.
And when it's like Skywalker and Kenobi and Skywalker, that was like the tears were just like, I was done at that point. I was like, I'm done. When he says, did he see us? When Anakin asks Obi-Wan, did Luke see us?
Yeah. And he just nods.
He has a naivete about like the nether realm of the Force. He's still learning. Just he's not as advanced as they are, and he's now just fallen into that rhythm of actually taking lessons and learning from people. And it felt like a real shift for the character, and it's really, really wonderful.
How much would you guys pay for a scene with Anakin and Qui-Gon Jinn as Force Ghosts somewhere in the world between worlds? How much do you want to see that beat? Just them being like, hey!
It's not far.
Yeah, he's like, I bet Qui-Gon's around here somewhere too. I mean, there was a little bit of retconning going on in there as well, but
the problem with Palpatine returning in the sequel trilogy is that, like, if he returns, like, Anakin almost has to be the vanguard that can't let that happen, and to me, that's missing from the sequel trilogy in like a huge way, and just the idea of that, and I think Ahsoka might write that, just I think invent that lore basically, because I imagine Anakin's like maybe like teams up with Ahsoka and thinks that she can be the weapon against Palpatine's return in the living world, and alluding to that.
I know. In a parallel universe, if like they knew that they were definitely 100% going to be bringing Palpatine back, it's like, how cool would it be if, Rey was visited by a Force ghost that she doesn't recognize, and it's Anakin Skywalker that's like helping her because he's like, you're the last hope.
The scene writes itself. Yeah. I mean, it's great. The Steadfast Soldier, Adam Christopher. This is Enric Pride sort of piece, needing that lightsaber, needing proof of Vader's death, all that sort of stuff. This was fun. This was a good one.
Yeah, Ben. This is one where Pride is on Endor. Like he survived on Endor, and is like getting cold, smoking something laced death sticks.
Nice.
Wearing a Ewok coat made of Ewok skins. It's pretty hardcore.
Is he a captain at this point?
I think so. Yeah.
Wait, which one is Pride?
From
Pride!
episode 9.
Yes. The Final Order. Yes.
Final Order, like Palpatine, whatever.
Yeah.
And he starts to get this idea, a bit of like the Final Order. You start to see this glimmer in his eye. So he is told by like these other stormtroopers he's found around Endor that like Darth Vader's dead, and they lead him to the funeral pyre, and he's like shifting through all the ashes trying to find the lightsaber. Like you get this moment where he's like, I just need this as this token that will allow me to like pull together this order. Like I need this symbol, right? And
but he
doesn't get it.
Does he take the mask? Because like, how does the mask?
Nope. And that's the thing where I feel like this.
They're like, we're gonna get caught. I think they get cold feet.
They hear Ewoks coming, and it felt to me. I mean, this is all just speculation, but you kept waiting for them to find the mask or find the lightsaber or something, and I'm guessing in an original draft that Adam Christopher probably had that written in, and then Story Group was like, no, we have other things that are going explain where the mask came from, and not we don't explain it in this book, but it just felt like that's where they were going for. But this
don't they find a lightsaber in Aftermath? Doesn't it get sold?
I can't remember.
I think there's like one of those vignette scenes, and it's either you can't tell if it's real or not, but there's some cultists that buy the Darth Vader's lightsaber on the black market.
That sounds
which I don't know how you would get it, because presumably it was dropped somewhere in the Death Star, but I mean, as we know, the Death Star landed in large pieces on a different moon of Endor. Kefbir or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe it was pulled out of there.
That makes sense. He also wrote Shadow of the Sith, so he's really good at kind of these like dark side writing stuff. But it's just it's one of those things where I just was thinking earlier of just like this would kind of be an amazing flashback, or even if it was in like the very beginning of the Force Awakens, of just like the immediate aftermath of a captain in the Empire, like trying to find, like build the remnants, like trying, like it just felt like such a really makes sense that this person is just in here and is involved with the remnants of the Empire all the way through 35 years later or 30 years later. Yeah.
One thing we haven't talked about at all in this book, at the beginning of every chapter, they just usually have a silhouette or an image. This one had the logo of the First Order on it.
Yeah.
But it really kind of flexed this thing that Kathleen Kennedy's talked about in interviews, where it's like all these characters, even like the ships are characters, everything has a very distinctive and unique silhouette. And I just love that they employed that. And it like really showed it off. Like you just saw the silhouette and you knew, you're like, oh, all right, I know this character.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Then the book rounds out with a fun story, Return of the Wills by Tom Engelberger.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is this was fun. It's just a fun romp at the end of the book, and then it just really just kind of comedic.
Perfect way to end it in terms of just.
It was like us during the podcast.
Yeah,
it sounded
goofy, funny.
Didn't like the first book end with a Wills chapter?
They all do.
Wills? Okay.
They all do, and it's the Wills writing the crawl of the movie.
Okay.
And it's just a really funny back and forth, especially if you listen to it on an audiobook. It's the voices are really funny, of just like it starts out super serious, and the other Wills walks into the room of like, "What are you writing?"
It's been Tom Engelberger every time.
Yeah,
too.
And then critiquing it, and just like pokes fun at the original title of like Revenge of the Jedi.
Yes.
And the other one will coming and be like, no, we don't. What? No, Jedis don't get revenge. And then poking fun at the special edition and like building the second Death Star. It's just and also retconning of like just going, well, if you take out the one flaw, why wouldn't you build a second one? Like just them debating back and forth. It's really.
Why wouldn't you give
fun.
it a shot?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I can get past building a second Death Star. Like, it is just like I can. That has never bothered me, probably because it's been a truth in my life since the beginning of my life. But it makes sense that like the Emperor would not be swayed by that. But like, I'm not taking an L. It's like, oh, you blew up that one, I'll build a bigger one. Like that's just so Palpatine.
Yeah, and again, like you only won because of this one flaw. So
yeah,
we remove the flaw, except we got to finish building the whole thing, so you can just fly.
It's like the Boston
in.
Celtics. You removed some flaws, and then now no one's going to beat them. They're going to be 82-0.
That's exactly right. The Boston Celtics are just like a Death Star.
You gotta have synergy.
A planet-killing machine run by fascists. No, I'm kidding. I know. I'm kidding. I have nothing against the Celtics.
I think it's supposed to be bigger in this book, like the Jared chapter. I think it's supposed to be big. Like Palpatine wants the Death Star to be bigger. The Death Star 2.
Yeah, I mean it is. It is bigger.
It is bigger.
It's like almost planet size.
Canon. It is canon bigger for whatever reason.
So it's not like a second one.
But let us not forget.
Yeah. No, I think it's like 100 times the size.
It's huge.
Really?
But let us not forget, Star Killer is much bigger, as they show in that really wonderful scene in The Force Awakens.
Oh, right. They're like, here's one, here's the other. Boom. Now we just retrofitted
There's got to be a way to destroy it.
Mm-hmm. Poor Ilum. R.I.P. Ilum.
I know.
Yeah.
That was a cool planet. Yeah. I mean, don't hate the idea. It's something about sending, I don't know, blasts through hyperspace that just lost me on that one, that I'm still confused by. I wish it was a little more obvious.
How they reflect or they were.
Yeah. They go through it's a hyperspace blast.
Yeah,
which is cool.
That then splits apart, and then
because it
hits different systems.
Well, one system, but with
different
pinpoint
planets.
accuracy. After it's a lot. It was a lot.
It's a lot.
And did you had to drain a sun to do that? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was very.
I have ideas for how to do these super weapons. Like, why not have something go on the same ecliptic plane as all the planets and just slice all the planets in half in a system or something? Like something different. You know what I mean? Like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or
there's a million things.
Use physics in a cool way. Like there's cool ideas in the future.
No, I always have my ear to the ground for something like, because I mean it is a problem, right? Like how do you up the stakes? What is what is this like galactic threat that's so terrible? I hope they go for the Force and some of those.
I miss that stuff. I like that stuff a lot, honestly. I'm down for big dumb super weapons.
Yeah. It's barely
like ominously roving through space in like for like 5 minutes at the start of any film. I'm happy with that if you want to do that. Right. But anyways, I love this book, guys. This is great. Yeah. We did it.
This is a long one. But it's worth it. This is so great, and it's fun to talk about all these stories. And this is, all of these from a certain point of view books end up coming up a million times later in other episodes. Like we just can't stop talking about it because I mean they're canon, and it's so fun. But it's a lot of good glue that reverberates through the rest of the canon. Mm-hmm. So stoked we did it. Are we gonna do more comics next week?
Sure.
Okay. Or
we'll chat about it.
Because I think we've got another book to read, right? The young adults.
We got 2 books to read. Right. We got the High Republic anthology.
Ooh.
That came out, which maybe not back to back because I don't know. That might be a chunky one as well.
Yeah, I like to push that one if I could, and kind of do like High Republic's month or something.
I agree. Then we got Crimson Climb, which is
Crimson
that young
Climb,
adult about Kira. Then we got a metric blank ton of comics to get through.
Yeah. Why don't we do?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We were going to catch up on the other side of all the other comics leading up to sort of Hidden Empire.
We're right in the middle of Hidden Empire with all of them trying to get caught up to where Dark Droids started.
Right. So we'll do a bunch of comics next week, and then maybe the week after that we'll do Crimson Climb. And then, and then whatever happens after that.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll talk comics. That's a lot to do. Maybe we do 2 out of the 4 main run series.
Okay.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Maybe we'll get some news. I feel like we're due.
That's great.
They don't usually let a month go by without some sort of Star Wars news.
Yeah. We're on the other end of the writer strike. Yeah. They did just reveal the writers for every episode of Acolyte.
Ooh.
So that came out.
There's different writers for each episode.
Yes, I mean they did a traditional writers room, so that's that weird thing where it's just like everyone writes everything, but certain people get
credits,
names on it for contractual reasons. Because I think Leslie Headland's only on 1 episode, but she was like she was the head of the thing, so she had her fingers in everything. Showrunner, thank you, that's the term. Yeah, so I'm guessing we might get a little more. Hopefully, that seems to be suggesting that things are going to trickle out about
Yeah, some
About
of this
Acolyte?
stuff. Yeah, because we should be hearing things about Skeleton Crew. We should be hearing things about Acolyte,
Yeah.
Bad Batch 3, like all this stuff. And some video game news, I think, as well. Right? One
Yeah,
of these is actually due out, right? The end of this
the
year?
news is that no, that's the news is that Outlaws, or not, what's it called? What's the
Outlaws. Outlaws, yeah.
Got seems like it got pushed.
Yeah.
To 2024, which is not.
That's not surprising, but I mean, 2024 is next year, man.
Not super late. It seems like maybe Q1 now instead of So
that's great. Like, I feel like Eclipse is somewhere too. Like, I don't know. There's gonna be
who
more.
knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, more to talk about. Right. A lot of stuff in the galaxy, but what a fun book.
Good, because the NyQuil's kicking in, so we got to land the ship before I
right.
start saying real weird stuff.
All right. Consider it landed. Thanks very much for listening to us this week. We'll talk to you again next week. Saddle up with us at the bar, have a beverage, and talk Star Wars with us. Until then, we'll see you next week on
Cantina Chronicles.